stop. I can't stop killing them. I can't stop. Won't stop. Don't know how to stop. I can't stop killing them. I can't stop. Won't stop. Don't know how to stop. Oh, they stopped me. All right, here we go. I spawn, I die. 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 I realize these 10-year-olds would shut the fuck up.
Fuck you, fuck that, fuck this, fuck that, fuck you.
I realize these 10-year-olds would shut the fuck up.
Fuck you, fuck this, fuck that, fuck this, fuck you.
I realize these 10-year-olds would shut the fuck up.
Fuck you, fuck that, fuck this, fuck that, fuck you.
I realize these 10-year-olds would shut the fuck up.
Fuck you, fuck this, fuck that, fuck this, fuck you.
I spawn, I die. 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 That's what I'm fucking talking about right there, man. Here we go. We have returned to the world of Dark Souls. There's a dragon. Giant fucking knight. We got trolls.
What the fuck is
I play video games with a gorgeous view.
Praise the sun. Ah, praise the sun.
Are you kidding me? What the fuck is this?
This is Dark Souls.
Son of a bitch. I'm not rolling. I'm trying to run. This is stupid. What's going on? He's dancing. You're gonna be dancing in a second. Your days of dancing are done. Another fucking invader. God damn it. Where's the bonfire? Kindle that shit.
The sex change coffin? What the fuck? Am I a chick now? I think I turned into a chick. What is the point of this?
We have returned to the world of Dark Souls. There's a dragon. Giant fucking knight. We got trolls.
What the fuck is
I play video games with a gorgeous view.
Praise the sun. Ah, praise the sun.
Are you kidding me? What the fuck is this?
This is Dark Souls.
Son of a bitch. What the fuck is a plunging attack? Oh, good dodge that attack. You can't hit me if I stay on his ball sack. That is a big fucking rat. Oh! Killed that fucking thing on the second try. I got the soul of the moonlight butterfly.
Oh, welcome to die.
Oh shit! It's an undead dragon and it's alive! Come on! 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 Here we go! Here we go! Here we go! 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 Oh! We have returned to the world of Dark Souls. There's a dragon. Giant fucking knight. We got trolls.
What the fuck is
I play video games with a gorgeous view. We have returned to the world of Dark Souls.
There's a giant eagle. Oh my god, that bug explodes.
You wanna run, son? You sure you wanna run? I can't move. So what am I supposed to do?
Praise the sun. Ah, praise the sun.
Are you kidding me? What the fuck is this?
This is Dark Souls.
Son of a bitch.
And I'm going to be completely honest with everyone. After I move, I'm going to have limited time to watch stuff. You know, I'll probably still watch Raw and SmackDown. But I don't know, man. This might not make the cut if they don't spruce up. You know what I mean?
There's more than enough wrestling that I watch and I enjoy that I don't need watching stuff that pisses me off.
No, it's true.
Makes me upset and freaking, you know what I'm talking about.
It's a fair point.
So when you see like a show, because when you love wrestling, you watch it and you see something that's, it actually hurts you. It's like, it makes you sad.
10 years later.
Wow. What is going on, everyone? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the SMARK Guys Revival. Live here on DSPReacts on YouTube and also on DSP Gaming Reel on Kick. Woo! That was a long 10 years. Ladies and gentlemen.
Whoa. Wait a minute, Phil. I thought we were calling the show Benoit Boys. I thought we were calling it Benoit Boys. You were telling me how Benoit was your favorite wrestler. You had all these theories that it was actually Kevin Sullivan who killed Nancy. We were gonna do it. We were gonna do a deep dive into how it was Kevin Sullivan who was responsible, how he framed Benoit. What are you telling me? It's called SMARK Guys? I thought it was Benoit Boys.
Well, I mean, if we wanted to be the shortest running show in wrestling commentary history, I guess we could call it that.
Benoit for the Hall of Fame. Ride the Bowflex, baby. Ride the Bowflex. But no, it's good to be here with you, King Phil.
It's good to have you, man.
You had a huge run with John Rambo back in the day. Legendary show, SMARK Guys. I'm so proud to be a part of the revival. Wrestling's back, bitch. It's on Netflix and it's cool again. At least if you're 400 pounds and autistic dented like me, then you love wrestling. It's back and it's cool. Guys, it's going to be a great show today and already big support.
Yes.
Harry the White for 50 Great British pounds. Let's go! Fuck yeah, Perry! And Fives for $4.99 saying total PPP victory. Let's fucking go. Now, Phil, it's been a while since you've watched wrestling. You quit during the fucking Scamdemic era.
Yeah.
Underdome era. There were no... Tell us about it, Phil. What led you to quit wrestling and now you're back?
Well, here's the thing. Like, we kind of have similar history as lifelong wrestling fans, but I ran this wrestling commentary show called SMARK Guys for about 3-4 years, you know, back at the height of my YouTube popularity. And then it ended in 2014 when I moved across the country and, you know, I basically had as everyone knows, kind of a falling out with those guys. And never really got back into the world of pro wrestling when it came to making content about it. But I continued to watch it for several years after that. And every once in a while, I would do like a wrestling sim in my content or whatever. But then around the era of COVID 2020, when WWE had to do these empty arena shows, that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because up to then, I already kind of felt like really burnt out. You know, at that point, it was like, if you want to be up on pro wrestling, you've got to watch so many shows. You got to watch Raw. You got to watch SmackDown. You got to watch NXT. But wait, on WWE Network, they have the Cruiserweight show. They've got the Mae Young Classic and this. But wait, what about the competition? What about, is Impact still going? What about New Japan? And it was so time consuming to stay like in the know in the world of pro wrestling that I just got so burnt out. And then now to see these empty arena shows and to see how basically the hype behind wrestling was kind of very stifled. You know, I really feel that a big part of pro wrestling getting hype is that crowd getting into the match, getting into the promo, the cheering, the booing. And when it all went away, it just felt so empty and boring. And I was like, I'm either going to keep watching and be disappointed, or I'm going to cut it. So I cut it cold turkey, and I really haven't even seen a wrestling match in no exaggeration about 5 years until last night when I watched the premiere episode of Raw on Netflix.
Is that true, Phil? Lots of people are skeptical of this claim. You're saying in the last 5 years you've not watched a single match, no WrestleMania, no Royal Rumble, no Survivor Series.
No, the last match that I saw was Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar for the title at WrestleMania, whatever the WrestleMania that was, 2020. I think they were at the Performance Center. And by the way, thank you to Wolves for another $5 super chat. He was correct.
He says it's pronounced Wolves, sir. My apologies. Maybe if you add an extra 0 to that super chat, we'll pronounce the name properly. But we need at least $50 from you, buddy. Come on. What's going on? It's the return of SMARK, guys. Let's get some fucking donos in here for Philomania. It's running wild with the Philomania brothers. The power of Philomania is running wild on you with PPP here in the house. So I'll give you my perspective. I feel your pain, Phil. It's such a time commitment to watch professional wrestling. And the problem with professional wrestling is that most of it is garbage. You're watching 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 2 hours of NXT. Half the time, if you are watching week to week, you're fucking skimming through the shit.
Right.
A lot of it you don't have interest in. You have to fast forward, stuff like that. It eventually got to the point for me where I just watched the pay-per-view. I would just watch the pay-per-view each month, and I would just watch recaps of Raw or whatever segment I needed on YouTube. And I was watching fairly consistently. I got into the Bloodline story with Roman Reigns and all the Samoans, which is past your time.
Yeah.
But once that jabroni Cody Rhodes won the title at WrestleMania, this bitch bum Cody Rhodes, who could never, ever hold a candle to the true legends of the business. I've kind of been on and off since WrestleMania 40. I felt like with a lot of Cody Rhodes' title run, it was just really predictable. At no point did I ever think that any of the guys he wrestled were going to beat him for the title.
Right.
Because I've known that The Rock's probably coming back to face him at WrestleMania this year.
Oh, really?
They needed to give him
rumor,
a big, long run. You know what I mean? So I've been kind of checked out on it. The Bloodline storyline that they introduced with now, there's the Tongans that have come in. And
the new
Solo
Bloodline,
Sikoa and stuff. We'll get into it, but I didn't find it as interesting and compelling as the previous parts of that storyline. But I loved Roman being champion for so long. It made so many people so angry. It made so many fucking AEW fucking smelly marks seethe that the tribal chief Roman Reigns was champion for 4 years.
Yeah,
and I was sure they were gonna bury Cody at WrestleMania 40 and let Roman be champion to eat Bruno Sammartino's record, but never fucking happened. So I've been paying attention to what's been going on, but I mostly have just been watching the monthly pay-per-views and recaps and stuff like that. But when I heard Raw was going to Netflix, there's been a lot of hype about this. Right. You know what I mean? People have been saying, it's going to be the Attitude Era again. It's not going to be PG. It's going to be badass as fuck. It's going to be a new boom period.
Right, a big reboot.
But then they were like, well, it's still going to be PG. It's still going to be family friendly. I'm like, fuck. But we tuned in, and I'll just say off the top, I was really happy with the show. What did you think, just overall thoughts on Raw coming to Netflix, Phil?
Well, the thing is, so I've been completely out of touch with wrestling for about 5 years. I've been in on some of the plots, not the matches. I haven't seen the matches, but I had been following pro wrestling on Twitter for a long time. So for a while, I was still getting it in my feed, and I would know, Roman Reigns is now the tribal chief. I would know about the plot lines and things like that. It got to the point where even like my social media feed was so inundated with wrestling that I unfollowed it all. So for like now for about, I say 2 years, I haven't even followed the general plot lines. But as many people know, I play a mobile game called WWE Champions. And
Whoa!
Wait, I
It's
admitted
you.
it.
Wait a minute. Phil brought it up. Hold on, Phil. I was supposed to press you about this later. Go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
So I played WWE Champions, and occasionally they add in the new wrestlers and they discuss the plot lines. So I'm kind of like semi-aware that there was a new bloodline and that Roman lost the title and now Cody's the champion. I kind of know that stuff. It's just I don't know the real match outcomes of the plots. I just know the generalities of what's going on. So me going into watching Raw on Netflix last night was like, I didn't know what the matches were going to be. I didn't know what the plots were leading up to it. I was hoping that WWE was going to do a good job of trying to get you all caught up on the background. But I also knew that if this is a big flagship show for them, and the first time they're jumping a network in a long time, and they want to, really announce everyone get Netflix, they're going to go all out. And they really did. Like, in general, my thoughts about the show, even though it was 3 hours long, it didn't kind of feel like 3 hours long, which is good. They kept it moving between matches and segments. Nothing felt overly too long or taking up too much time. It was a mix of old and new. Like if you're someone who hasn't seen wrestling in a very long time, you're going to recognize faces that they've got coming to try to get that nostalgia factor. At the same time, if you like the modern product, there was a lot of that. There were 4 big matches from the modern superstars. And in general, I think the production quality, I was shocked. Now, I don't know if all WWE actually looks like this or not at this point, because I haven't seen a match in 5 years, but that to me looked like the level of production of like a WrestleMania. Like it was big, the camera shots, the background, the giant screens, and just the shots and everything. I felt like I was watching the biggest event of the year for pro wrestling. So I don't know if they're going to be able to hold that level of production quality every year or every week moving forward. But man, that was a pretty darn good way to start it, especially if you're introducing it to a new audience who hasn't seen wrestling in a long time. They're going to look at this as like, wow, it's like a spectacle, as opposed to just if they had done like a normal Raw from back in the day, it probably wouldn't have had anywhere that level of effect.
For the longest time, production was run by Kevin Dunn, the Bucky Bucktooth bitch boy of The Office, who only had a fucking job because he saved his father, I think, saved the tape library for Vince from a burning fucking car. So Vince felt like he had to let Kevin Dunn have this fucking job, right? And Kevin Dunn, his production was it was fucked. It was so ADHD and frantic. You'll notice camera wasn't cutting every 3 seconds or on every fucking move. It looks completely different. And the way Kevin Dunn did production back in the day, it was like you would know what was about to happen in the match just based off the way the cameras were cutting. This move's coming now this move is coming. Now it's not so ADHD, like the camera actually stays on the action. It's more like a sports presentation.
Wasn't it infamous that Kevin Dunn completely botched Edge's return at the Royal Rumble where Edge was coming out and the camera cut away and like, what the fuck are you doing? Go back, you fucking idiot. It's supposed to be the giant, return of a superstar who we never thought would wrestle again. And how do you botch that?
And YouTube Prisoner brings it up that, Kevin Dunn was one of Vince's stooges. He knew all about all of the dirty sexual depravity of Vince and the harassment of everyone was going on. But the truth is about Vince, because there was no mention of Vince McMahon at all on this show.
That's right.
Not in the intro package, no credit to him whatsoever. The only McMahon family member we saw on this entire broadcast was Stephanie for like 2 seconds. And even then, they hesitated to call her Stephanie McMahon.
Right.
and she, I don't think, has anything to do with the company at this point. I don't think there are any McMahons currently working at the company at all.
Wow.
So far as I know.
What a change.
And
what a sweeping change. I mean.
It really is a brand new era. They're now under the umbrella of UFC. Same company now, WWE and UFC together.
That's right.
Which could lead to a lot of crossovers and promotions. I'm surprised it hasn't where they haven't had like UFC people showing up in WWE yet and doing that. You know, they have Logan Paul, and there's thoughts that perhaps like Logan Paul might have a fight with Conor McGregor later on in the year and stuff like this, or that Logan Paul might get into the UFC side and cross promote between UFC and WWE. But it is a completely new era. It's a completely new company, new executives in charge. It doesn't have all of Vince's various booking idiosyncrasies anymore.
Right.
Because Vince was like a psycho with the way he would book things. You know, he would change things like 2 minutes before they were supposed to happen. He would be rewriting. He would surprise people on the air. I remember when he surprised Jim Ross on the night of the WWE draft. Jim Ross had no idea he was being sent from Raw to SmackDown. And you could see his reaction live. He was fucking rattled. And that's the shit Vince would do. He would just fuck with people.
Wow.
He would make them do like humiliation rituals and crazy shit like that. So there isn't that anymore in WWE. So it's a fresh new era. People are going to be able to come in, and it's not going to have the stink of McMahon on it, stuff like that. So it's interesting. Let's start off the top of the show.
Actually, let's do some shout outs because a bunch of contributions came in. Let's get them out of the way.
Let's go.
Thank you to Dick Jones.
Here comes the money. Here we go. Let's get the money.
Four gifted subs over on Kick. Thank you to Dick Jones for that. Appreciate that. We got Falcule with a $5 super chat. This is the King and PPP together at last, shooting on the business, stunning the detractors, making them holler. So let's give them our top dollar. Let's go. Thank you, Falcule, for that. Appreciate that. And I received a $10 tip here. First tip of the day.
Ooh.
From Lady Charisma. Let's go. A new era, and I am here to show my support. Thank you very much, Lady Charisma, for that.
Not just a new era of wrestling, but a new era. The DSPReacts era of the wrestling show. Big
Very
support, $10. Let's keep it coming. Let's add some zeros on. Let's get a hundo bomb. Let's get $100 tip for Phil, the fucking legend. He's putting in OT. This guy's all day, all night, every day.
Oh.
And then watching Raw, he's taking notes, he's paying attention, he's here. Let's reward the effort from Phil, guys.
Thank you to James over on Kick, who also gifted a sub over there. I missed that between the lines there. Thank you to James. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, James.
All right. Let's get started, shall we? Let's start talking about Raw, right? How it opened.
So I was hyped up. I was excited. It starts off with like a countdown timer to the show. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a new era. It's so exciting. And then it cuts to the lobby of the Intuit Dome, and you hear Michael Cole announce and Pat McAfee. And instantly I was anti-hype.
Well,
because
did we know that they were going to be the announcers? Again, I had no preconceived notions, no knowledge. I didn't know who the announcers were going to be. I thought maybe they'd bring back Jim Ross for a one night or something. But was it known that they were going to be the announce team?
They've been the announce team for a while now, and I understand why they have Pat McAfee there. He has a huge show about the NFL. Millions of people watch it. It's one of the most popular sports talk shows in the world. So I know why he's there. I still don't like him. I still think he's a shitty commentator, and I think he's cringe. I will say he's better than Michael Cole. I can't fucking stand Michael Cole. I've never, ever fucking Michael Cole. WWE commentary has been in the shit ever since Michael Cole took over. Let's be real. Once they phased out JR and Jerry Lawler as the main commentators, we have been in the dark ages of commentary for 2 decades.
Yeah.
The guy fucking sucks.
When I grew up, the commentators were just as much a part of the program as the wrestlers. I mean, think about Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby the Brain Heenan. These guys brought big personality to the show. Half the time they'd be going off on tangent conversations that had nothing to do with what was in the ring, but it was entertaining. It hooked you. And then they would have former wrestlers. Like, remember when Macho Man was on commentary for a while? That was highly entertaining. And then you had JR and you had the King, and that was great. And then all of a sudden, you're right. We had this era where they decided to stop kind of having that level of banter and instead have more like serious. Now, admittedly, Michael Cole has had some dumb plot lines before. Remember when he was in that stupid
the coal mine,
bullshit and everything,
the shitty glass box, and he was basically took over the whole show.
Right,
the whole show was about Michael Cole and the Miz for like 18 fucking months. And I actually like Miz, and I think he's actually really underrated. And people shit on Miz way, way, way too much. But the Michael Cole stuff, that's probably why people didn't like Miz back then and gave him the respect that he actually deserved and earned. Remember back then, like when Miz first came in, he had to change in the fucking hallway.
Yeah.
Everybody made fun of him. They hazed him. They treated him like shit. He overcame all of that, ended up main eventing WrestleMania and stuff like that. But I think a lot of the reason why some people don't remember Miz fondly is because the Michael Cole stuff, it was just too much. It was so cringe. And because he's commentating over everything back then, there was no break from him whatsoever. Now, I know a lot of people today like to try and praise Cole and say that he's improved. But let's be real. The only reason this guy was ever around was because he was Vince McMahon's human fleshlight, human sock puppet bitch. Vince commanded and dictated the commentary through him.
Right.
Basically
like,
a
doesn't
fucking
he just talk right through?
Dummy.
Yeah, he would talk right through the headset and tell him exactly what to say.
Cole.
Yeah.
Tell him it's good shit, Cole. Like, fuck. It was fucking brutal. And now that Vince is out of his ear, it's like, oh, he's free. He's free. But he's still free to fucking suck. So it was like, I just wish we could get some commentators. I watched Saturday night's main event. Now, you didn't see it, but WWE was actually on NBC when they brought back the old Saturday night main event branding. They had Jesse Ventura on commentary for the main event.
Wow.
And which you'd think would never happen.
Yeah.
After Ventura was thrown out for trying to start the wrestling union,
right.
Hogan stooged on him because he didn't want the rest of the boys to get the money that he was getting. Hogan, why would Hogan, not just keep himself at the top? He screwed everybody over, right? But they brought Ventura back, and he was great on commentary. It was just such a refreshing thing to hear somebody who wasn't such a sock puppet stooge bum on commentary. And I wish that they could get better commentators. So that was one thing where I'm like, oh, I'm hyped for the new era. But then this is like, oh, this kind of sucks. These guys are still here, right? And they're showing like the lobby of the Intuit Dome. I wish that it had just immediately cut to Triple H in the ring and the video package. I didn't like it. Just kind of sucked the wind out of me initially to see the lobby. But they're in the Intuit Dome. Brand new multi-billion-dollar facility of the Los Angeles Clippers. This building is beautiful.
Yeah.
It was the perfect venue. It was shot and set up spectacularly. It's LA. All the celebrities were there. It was a great staging ground for it. But we start off with this video package on screen. And this is going to be very divisive because the Cornette-type fans who, believe in maintaining the sanctity of kayfabe and we need to try and present this as real and we can't remind the audience it's fake. Cornette's going to have a fucking stroke about this shit on the podcast today. He might honestly keel over after his third Baconator and die, and Brian Last will be out of a fucking job. The trust fund bum that he fucking is.
Yeah, but it's crazy. This promo, when it opened, it's like they immediately start talking about storytelling, right? And they're talking about heel versus face, and basically what we know, people who have watched pro wrestling for a long time, is that it really is about stories. It's not necessarily about it being really an athletic challenge where there's a real winner and loser, but it's about the stories. It's almost like an adult soap opera with athleticism also paired in with it. And to see them kind of publicly admit that as the first thing they did when premiering on a new venue like Netflix was shocking. Like, I wasn't expecting that. I thought maybe they would just be showing a montage of some of the greatest moments, but not actually talking about the storytelling like they did.
I thought it was actually a really smart way. And I think that the way that they did all of this was really, really smart, the way that they laid it out. Because the first objection you get when you tell somebody you're a wrestling fan, which most people are ashamed to admit, you know, it's kind of like admitting like you have a mental illness or like you're a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, something cringy. Because that's just the way most people look at it, because wrestling is so polarizing. Either you love wrestling or you hate it. There's very few people who are in between. Right. Either you immediately or like you fall in love with it as a kid and you watch it, or you're like, I just don't get it. This is gay, it's lame, it's fake. So immediately your pro wrestling is fake. And what this is an attempt to answer that objection, to say, why should you care even though it's fake? And it's to say, it's you just like any other TV show that's fake, like Breaking Bad or The Sopranos or The Wire. These are characters that you get invested in. But it wasn't just that. They brought it back to the roots. And this is why I love pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is one of the few forms of entertainment left that's like a traveling circus, where it goes from town to town and it's a live performance in front of people every single week. And it depends on connecting to that audience and getting them engaged in what you're doing. And it's incredibly, what's his name? Werner Herzog said, it's perhaps the most primitive form of entertainment he's ever seen, because it really is. It's two people just going out into a ring and just wrestling. And there's few props. There's like steel chairs, stuff like this. They talk. But it really does come back to its roots in like the theater in ancient Greece, or a Shakespearean play, or the traveling circus. And I like that they touched on that. Yeah. I like that they touched on its carnival roots, its circus roots. And, you know, all of those forms of entertainment that are like that are dying. And unfortunately, pro wrestling might also be dying. It's nowhere near as big as it used to be. So I like the promo package to open the show. I thought it was well done. I thought it was sophisticated. I thought it served a point. But I understand the people who are like, well, you can't just say it's fake. But it's 2025. Right. We have to live in the real fucking world. People know this shit's fake. There's a million YouTube shows that discuss every aspect of the backstage politics. We have Dave Meltzer, the wrestling list. We have every single aspect of the business has been exposed. Blading to get blood. Right. How they do this, how they do that. So we have to adapt with the times and find a way to get people invested and separated from their money without insulting their intelligence. And I think that this was an adequate way of doing that.
And the truth is, I'm very, very... I've had two eras of being a wrestling fan. My first era was when I was young, and I actually thought it was real. You know, I was a kid, and you think, oh, these guys are superheroes, right? And they're fighting each other in the ring. It's like David versus Goliath, right? But then when you get older and you realize that it's fake, okay. But then you start to actually respect these guys, because not only are they highly trained athletes, but they're also actors. They're basically doing two jobs at once, and they have to balance that perfectly. Well, and you start to respect that level of craft and skill that they have.
People don't understand this. Like, people have respect for stuntmen who, you know, they do all sorts of crazy stuff in the movies. You gotta remember, stuntmen have multiple takes. When you're a wrestler, you're live.
That's right.
You have to get it right the first time. And a lot of people don't understand. They're like, oh, this is fake. And they have to be able to do it without hurting themselves. They're on the road 300 days out of the year. They rarely see their family. They're constantly traveling, right? So it's something where for the average person, when they look at it, they go, this is fake, this is gay. But there actually is some incredible stuff to it, right?
Right. By the way, I think we should do some more shout outs because so many contributions are coming in. First of all, on the kick side, wow. Thank you guys so very much. Just listen to this. We've got Barry Smooth with a gifted sub. Thank you to Barry Smooth for a gifted sub. We've got Whoa Baby with 5 gifted subs. Thank you, Whoa Baby.
Whoa Baby, let's go. Choo choo, sub train, Let's get her going.
And then, ladies and gentlemen, Rare Tricks, 25 subs on Kick, 25 bomb.
A 25
Amazing.
bomb to support the show. Rare Tricks, we fucking love you. That's the $100 I was asking for, or actually more.
That's right.
Let's keep it coming. We can do better than that, guys. Come on. Come on. Let's show them that wrestling fans aren't just poor, broke, smelly, 400-pound bums. And that's one of the problems with pro wrestling is they have trouble attracting advertisers that pay the big bucks because the stereotype is that wrestling fans are uneducated, they're ignoramuses, they're dumb. But that's not true. Wrestling fans are really high-quality people, and let's show them that tonight.
Also,
okay.
On the YouTube side of things, we have Ban Amber Heard's Turd, who did $2 super chats. First one, he says, Andy sounds like Iago from Aladdin. I don't know if that's some kind of a running meme or something.
No, I haven't heard that one yet.
And also he says, wrestling hasn't been good since the late 90s. Well, some people are of that impression that the Attitude Era was kind of the epitome of what pro wrestling can be, and that we're never going to see it reach back to those heights. And as Ash had mentioned, a lot of people had thought that going to Netflix would mean that WWE would return back to that kind of Attitude Era of content, but it seems like they're still sticking PG, at least for now.
Let's talk about that. So I wasn't alive for the Attitude Era. I started watching wrestling when I was 6 in like 2002, 2001. So I saw the very tail end of it or whatever. But I have now, WWE Network or Peacock or, it was on Sportsnet in Canada for a while. And you can go back and you can watch the Attitude Era. And what I've actually found is that it's very similar throughout all of wrestling, is that at the very top of the card, or similar to today at least, to the Attitude Era, at the top of the card, it was amazing. Rock, Austin, Foley, it was amazing. Every time, Undertaker, Kane, every time those guys are on screen, it's great. But if you go back and watch, a lot of it was dog shit.
Yes, the filler in between was bad a lot of the times, like shoveling shit to get to the good segments.
These lower card guys, it was bad, man. And it's the same thing today. And that's really what wrestling is I find it to be both the very worst form of entertainment possible and also the very best form of entertainment possible. It's very interesting. You have these moments where if you really get bought in and you're really sucked into the match and into the performance, it's an experience like nothing else. It's so exciting. When it's good, it's so good. But when it's bad, it's so bad.
Especially if you've invested so much time to see an outcome and then the match ends up just being so bad. You're like, oh, I waited all this time and watched all this content just to get to this shitty ending,
You know what I mean? So for me as a wrestling fan, I am like just going through shit after shit, looking for the gold dust, looking for the gold nuggets that are there. And, it used to be worth it. And then for a while, I'm like, it's not worth it, but I want to get back into it again in this Netflix era. And I say, watching that show last night, I was like, it is worth it. It is exciting. It is fun. So let's keep going down the order of what happened.
Yes.
So talked about the promo package. We have a new mat. What do you think of? They have all this branding and logos on the mat. What do you think, Phil? You're not a fan?
There was none of that when I was watching, 5 years ago. So for me, of course, it's jarring. Now, I've heard that they've done this like for pay-per-view events and stuff. They've had that kind of branding. And I mean, as long as it's not intrusive, like, okay, it's there. And every other sport is doing this too, right? UFC has that shit. Everyone has that shit on the mat now. As long as it's not intrusive to the product, I guess I'm okay with it. But it is a shame that every single thing has to go so goddamn commercial at this point. But,
I know.
It's kind of reality.
Now, I actually really like it. And I like it better. And let me tell you why. It makes me feel like it's a real sport. It makes me feel like it's like UFC. When you tune into UFC, which they're now merged with, they have that stuff on the ring mat.
Yes.
And going back to New Japan New Japan has always had those advertisements on the mat and stuff like that, which assists in the sports-based presentation. So I know a lot of people were complaining to see the Hulk Hogan beer ad on the mat. But you know what? Like, I like that. I like seeing the beer ads on the mat, which I also think is crazy because it's supposed to be a family-centered PG product. But yet here we are shilling beer to children,
right?
You know, who are watching this shit. It's kind of crazy. I'm not wild about Fortnite being the one in the middle, but it is 2025 and I'm fucking old and you're old and that's what's hip. That's what's cool. That's what's paying. And so it's smart, I think, that it makes it feel more sports-based.
Yeah.
And it's also smart because it's a new source of revenue for the company. So I didn't mind that too much.
Keep it in the ring, keep it on the mat. But I swear to God, if they have a segment where all the wrestlers dress up like Fortnite and start doing fucking dancing like in banana suits, that's going to be fucking way too much. And I hope they didn't go that far.
Oh, and back in the day, like especially 10 years ago, like 2011, 2012, there was a lot of shitty commercial plugs like that. I remember like
the Subway sandwich segment. Remember that shit? They're all chasing the sandwich in the arena.
Or like when they had to dress up as like KFC, Colonel Sanders, shit like this. So sometimes that just gets too silly and ridiculous. I think I remember they did like a Walking Dead promotion. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but you remember where I think it was during the COVID era, they had like a zombie come in and battle like John Morrison and shit. So sometimes that gets too hokey and stuff. I wanted to mention the new Raw logo. What did you think of that, Phil? To me, it reminds me of this new trend they have where it's to make it too simple and too clean. Like remember the Jaguar scandal they had with the Jaguar logo?
Yes.
I don't really like that new aesthetic they have for the Raw logo. I thought it was too modern in its sensibilities. I wish it was the old logo.
Yeah, you see, I'm running the old logos on my screen right here, and you can see how stylized a lot of them were. And it seems like I just as if they're trying to do this for the new audience, right? They're on Netflix now, so they want to look more modern, more stylized, more generic. And I get why they did it. But yeah, it's called Monday Night Raw, right? Like it's supposed to be uncensored, crazy content. And here's the most milquetoast bland logo you can see.
So inoffensive. It's just so corporate and sanitized. I didn't like that. That's one of the only aspects with the presentation that I didn't like. Start off Triple H in the ring. I have in my notes here, isn't it weird that Triple H is bald? I still can't get used to it. I know he's had his hair cut like this for over a decade, cut short, but I've always hated it, man. Like when he got rid of that long hair, like it's not Triple H anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's now Paul Levesque.
What it is, you know, we're getting older. And the audience is getting older, and the wrestlers are getting older. And, you know, these guys who were from a previous era, we're so used to seeing them in that persona. Undertaker, he should have the hat, and he should have the, you know, the gothic look. Triple H should have the hair. But these guys are getting older. And, you know, I hadn't seen Triple H in 5 years. And when he came out, I was like, oh, he definitely looks a lot older now than I remember seeing him just 5 years ago. But, you know, what else can you do? I mean, I'm sure he started shaving his head because he needed to, you know, like he probably couldn't grow out the hair
I guess
anymore.
He couldn't grow it back out or whatever. But he had those health issues recently as well, where he had those heart attacks and he'll never wrestle again, which is crazy to me, you know, that he'll never, ever wrestle again. He's in charge of the company now. And it's crazy to me because it's shocking that he is now in charge, because we always knew that one day he might take over.
Yeah.
It was always a question of the succession. Because when I started watching, of course, Shane will take over one day. And Shane will run the company with his father. And I always wanted that to be. And for me, it's tough that Shane... did you watch the Vince McMahon Netflix documentary, Phil?
No, I've been totally out of it. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, maybe I will.
Vince told Shane, if you want this company, you need to stab me. He gave him a knife. He said, stab me and kill me right now.
Wow.
Or you'll never have this company. You'll always be my bitch. And I guess he didn't respect his son because unlike him, who was willing to steal the company out from under his father, who was willing to take risks, he felt Shane was a pussy. And it's actually like a really sad story of how Shane always wanted to gain his father's respect. He would do all these stunts, fall off of stuff, go through broken glass.
That was insane, the stuff
this.
he did back in the day, the plate glass with Angle. Oh my God, man. Nuts.
And he never got it. And then, Stephanie didn't get it either.
Yeah.
And now I've heard rumors that, all of the sexual harassment lawsuit stuff that came up, it was actually Stephanie Triple H's plan to get rid of Vince and steal the company out from underneath him. And that's why Vince then decided to come back and sell the company to make sure they would never get that inheritance.
Wow.
That they would never get to run the company. And with Triple H, too, you feel it's like nepotism. Like he married his way into it.
Yeah.
But not so really because, it's new executives, new corporate structure, and they've kept him on. They've kept him on as the guy running everything because he earned it. He, ran NXT for years. He's now been in charge of the main roster for years. Although those who are so attached to Triple H and, worship him and lick his fucking balls and he can do no wrong, realize that one day his ass will be fucking gone. One day he will be scapegoated and there will be no connection whatsoever to the McMahons. There'll be no connection whatsoever to pro wrestling and the management side of things. They will bring in suits to run everything. So enjoy it or hate on it while it lasts, but I don't think Triple H will last there. Maybe 5 years he'll have.
Yeah.
And then I think his ass will be fired.
During the 2000s, the actual on-screen plot was that, Triple H is marrying Steph, so now he gets all the favor or whatever from the McMahons. And I think at that point, people who were smart and knew the industry were like, well, actually, in real life, one day he might actually get the company too, or at least have a leadership role. But I think what happened at that point, like a lot of people were like, we don't want Triple H to do that because then he might be like power abusive or something. But then what's happened is in the last 10, 15 years, with Vince still in control with his mitts into everything, people started to realize we do need someone different controlling these matches, controlling the outcomes. We need someone else writing. And when Triple H started doing NXT and stuff like that, and people were comparing directly NXT versus the main product, they're like, this shit is better. So we're happy that Triple H is in control of NXT. We want to see different people in control. And it's refreshing to see someone who kind of understands the fans and not just the old way things used to be, to see that person be in control. But you're right. How long do we have? Wasn't there even just recently a rumor before WWE was actually sold to the UFC company that they were going to be bought out by the Saudis? And if they were bought out by someone like that, that the whole company structure could change. That would be something that would probably be very shocking. So, and who knows if they would keep him on if something like that were to happen. So I think you're right, but I think we should enjoy it while we have it, right?
Yeah. Now Isaiah here in chat goes, I don't think Triple H will last based on absolutely nothing. WWE is making more money under Triple H than ever. Like what? I think the reason why he will eventually go is because he is married to Stephanie McMahon and that there is that association with Vince.
Yeah.
And as we continue on in this cancel culture, guilt by association, PR, corporate, sanitized world that we live in, I think that he eventually will go. And I also think that the corporate-minded people at TKO, because remember, this is Ari Emanuel, this is UFC coming in. Right now, they feel like they don't know the business. They need to have one of the boys running it. But eventually, one of those executives, one of those suits will go, why do we have a wrestler running this shit? This guy doesn't have a business degree from Harvard or Yale. This guy doesn't have the credentials. This guy, we need to get somebody in here that actually knows, and then they'll fucking throw us out. That's my reasoning.
We all know that from the history of the gaming industry recently, that totally makes sense because, you know, all the suits that are running the AAA game companies, and then every game that comes out is a woke piece of garbage that no one wants to buy anymore. We definitely need the suits in charge, not people who actually understand the industry, right? You know, it's the stupidest reasoning ever, but you're absolutely right. People in power of these companies seem to have this mentality that they don't need someone in the know. You know, I always think have someone who has their fingers on the pulse of the fans. Those are the people who are your life's blood, who are going to pay you, who are going to make you profitable. Why do you have to disassociate from that? I just don't get that.
I agree. Okay, I know we're going off on tangents. We got to start Pyro to open the show. Hallelujah! For a long time, Pyro was nowhere to be seen.
Oh, really?
I
didn't know that.
For a long time, they didn't do Pyro to open the shows. I don't know why, whether it was an insurance liability or for what, but it was cool for me to see that Pyro was back and that they used Pyro a lot throughout the show. It just always made it feel more of a spectacle.
Right, like you're
bigger.
at a pay-per-view or at WrestleMania. It feels like this is an important event. Right.
Homelander in chat asks, what if Rock buys WWE? Well, I don't know if you're aware, but Rock just purchased millions of dollars of more shares in TKO Holdings. So he is a part owner of WWE. He's on the board. He is actually like Triple H's boss. Like he actually is the final boss. He really is the guy over there right now. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. Speaking of which, Rock comes out, and I gotta say, I was marking out. You know what? When Rock taps his arm and he says the goosebumps, I was feeling goosebumps for Rock to come out. What were you thinking when Rock came out, Phil? Did you have that nostalgic feeling of getting to see The Rock?
Well, it was interesting. Did you? I don't know what music Rock has used to come out in recently because I haven't been watching. But it's like he comes out and it's like his classic theme, but then they go into the new theme. That's like the slower theme, almost like a villain. You know, I liked that. It's like showing this is old Rock, but now it's a new Rock, and he comes out and does his thing. And I like seeing him, but again, like when I saw Triple H, I'm like, oh, he definitely looks older. Like to me, because I haven't been following for 5 years, and I look at him, he's like, he looks a little skinnier. You know, he's got the stubble, it's got some gray in there. And like, well, if you haven't been watching for a while, you'd probably be shocked that this is how he looks. But he still got it. You're right. He still got his charisma. He still got that ring presence.
Yeah.
He still got some cheeseball stuff too, because some of the lines they gave him about kissing Netflix's butt and everything, you know.
Yeah. Let's talk. So Rock comes out. Wow, it's The Rock, and you got to give The Rock his props for this. When Rock comes out, he slows it right down, and this is one thing that I, as a performer, wish that I was able to do more. I'm still guilty of going too fast. Rock slows it right down. He takes full control. He demands your attention. He captivates the audience. He allows his charisma to take over, his showmanship to come over. So even though what Rock is saying is like goofy and bullshit, it's the way that he delivers it that makes it so special. However, that being said, Rock's promo kind of felt like DSP's pre-stream where it's like a business meeting. It was like Rock was running a business meeting with the Netflix executives and touching on all these different points. I thought it was good of him, you know, and he's pointing out certain performers to highlight to the Netflix executives. He highlighted Cody Rhodes. Right. You know, he said this guy has put the company on his back for a year. I think that was a very solid thing of Rock to say. And it was a good way to highlight Cody, the face of the company, to start the Netflix era, even though he didn't have a match on the show or a segment on the show. And it kind of allowed to maybe foreshadow, is Rock going to battle with Cody at WrestleMania or what? He also, of course, shouted out his family member, Roman Reigns, who is the big star of the company in this era. He accomplished everything he needed to do during this promo. Again, as I said earlier, he was able to say bullshit, and it wasn't censored.
Right, they didn't censor
it
it at
wasn't
all.
on a tape delay. And it made it feel like wrestling was a big deal. But it was like a business meeting where he goes, "This is the highest grossing arena show in WWE history," which is crazy when you think of all the shows that they've had over the years. They were able to charge outrageous ticket prices for this show. So many celebrities were in the crowd. We'll go through them as we go through the rundown. But I thought it was a good start to the show. I thought it was smart because, Rock is the biggest star they have. He's a Hollywood celebrity.
Right.
At one time, he was the biggest Hollywood star in the world. Now, his star kind of is diminishing since
faded
Black Adam.
Yes, for sure.
and this latest Christmas movie, what was it, Red One?
Red One flopped.
Just totally flopped. So it's not what it used to be, but it was smart for them to start the show with The Rock. And it felt cool. Then we had Roman Reigns come out. It was Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns. What were your thoughts on this, Phil, this match, this segment? Because you haven't been watching for a long time.
Yeah, first of all, when they come out, this production value is wild. And this is Monday Night Raw. Again, this is not WrestleMania. And to see them coming at this insanely huge LED screen that they have at this arena, the pyro that they've got for these guys coming out now, it just feels like a giant match feel for a match that I don't know the history of. So I'm just trying to get caught up really fast. To be honest, I loved this match. And the reason that I think I really loved the match was because if you haven't actually been watching wrestling for a while and you watch this match, Solo versus Roman, it's got everything, right? You've got the classic heel versus face, but you've also got the big fight feel where they're in each other's faces. What's at stake? Oh, it's the Samoan necklace, and it really has this big meaning within their culture. And then they're doing their spots, and they're on their game. It's a great match. Both of them are looking strong. You've got guys running in who are part of the plot line. So now you get introduced to other wrestlers as well who are involved in this new bloodline plot line. I didn't even know that Sami Zayn and Jimmy were still involved in it. So to see them running in, oh, this is cool. And then to see the new blood coming out, Jacob and was it Tonga? Is that his name? Tonga Loa. So that was cool.
I'm not too sure.
I always get them confused.
Go ahead, Phil.
But yeah, it was, for me, this is the quintessential, not quintessential, this is the essential Raw match. You've got great performance, drama, great camera work, like we had mentioned. The camera work now is much better. So you're seeing the action, but you're seeing the drama emphasized as these other guys are running in to get involved in the match. And had a good ending, not a botched ending, not a baloney ending, because these guys were getting interfered. There was no screw job. It was just a really solid match to open the show, and it was the culmination of an important plot line, so it had a meaning as well. It wasn't just a throwaway match.
Now, I have some nitpicks. First of all, these guys' physiques are still fucking soft as fuck. I don't know what it is. Samoans can't get abs. I don't know what it is. These Samoans, they're just fat. They just can't get shredded.
I've always wondered, is that just part of their culture? Is that part of their culture that they don't want that? Kind of almost like a sumo wrestler would never want to be ripped. So maybe that's just part of the thing, is that they see that as virile and strong for males, is that you don't need to be ripped. You just need to be big, right? Big bird.
That's right.
Push people around.
The other thing, they can't control it. But the other nitpicky thing for me is in previous tribal warfare matches, they've had the family at ringside. They've had the grandfathers and the cousins, and they're all sitting around ringside. I wish that we had seen that. Also, with the Bloodline Rules match, the whole point is that nobody from the family is supposed to interfere.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't like that there was so much interference in the match. And in fact, I thought that the finish was overbooked. But I wasn't thinking from the perspective, that you have, where it's, if this is your first time tuning in a long time or ever, getting to see all of these people come in, it is fun. It is exciting to have them, come into the ring and interfere. And there was a lot of that back in the Attitude Era and stuff like that. But from a traditional perspective, I would have liked to see Roman win completely clean, 1, 2, 3, no interference. I didn't mind like the initial interference, and then Sammy and the other Jimmy coming out and saving him. But then you had Kevin come out to interfere,
Right.
You know, and then Cody's then come out, interfere, and it's just like I felt like it was a bit too much interference.
A lot of overbooking, but again, that's almost representative of an entire era of what Raw was back in the day. You always had the matches where it was Evolution and but now there's 400 people running in during the match to stop Evolution. It was like that was kind of the thing. So for me, it was like a throwback to that era.
Yes.
I also didn't know that there wasn't supposed to be interference. I don't know what the Bloodline match was, you know. I didn't understand
it. Exactly. One of the problems with this match I had, which you wouldn't have had, is that I just don't buy into Solo Sikoa. I never viewed him as a legitimate threat to Roman Reigns. I felt like he was never built up to be Roman Reigns. He was always booked to lose, to be second best. And he just doesn't have the charisma. Now, I know a lot of people have felt in recent months like Solo turned it around and finally established himself, but I never felt it was that way. Okay. And also, the Tongans, the one Tongan is way too fucking thin. They both have to wear fucking t-shirts because their physiques are fucked. You know it's bad. When a wrestler has to wear a t-shirt, you know shit's scuffed. You know shit's fucked. And then the other Tongan is way out of shape. So those guys, I don't think, are ready for prime time, not ready to be part of the main event scene, in my opinion. But I want to give praise to Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman, he's able to do so much. He's so expressive with just his eyes. He doesn't have to flail around. He doesn't have to be so theatrical. He's able to communicate so much with just his eyes alone, with just his facial expressions alone. It adds so much to the match. It adds so much to each fall, each moment in the storytelling. Paul Heyman, in my opinion, is like an MVP of WWE and has been for years with this Bloodline storyline. It was amazing.
I was just going to ask,
Paul.
I haven't followed the Bloodline storyline now in a long time. So has Paul been there the entirety on Roman's side? Has that been a staple of it? Because to see him was awesome. I was like, oh, you know, Heyman's here. This is cool. I haven't seen him in a long time.
He's like considered the special counsel, the advocate. He's like cornerstone of the story. He's there every week, whether he was and there was storylines where he was Brock's manager, but also Roman's manager, and they were feuding, and which side is he going to take? He's done so much. It's a shame you missed out because the Bloodline storyline, Phil, was actually so good. It's on the level of anything that's ever happened in wrestling. It really is that good. The rest of the show, not so much. But those segments were so good. And it's a real shame you missed out on the years and years of, the wise man. Tribe's wise man. That's right. Okay, so we had that match. What would you give it in terms of a star rating, Phil? Out of 5 stars, what would you give it?
Out of 5 stars, I would say, well, first of all, technically the match was good. I think that both of them were on their game. I liked the fact that they had the interference because it was a throwback to classic Raw matches. I did like the fact that there was not a bullshit ending, you know, no nonsense. Oh, throw it out because so much interference. I would probably say maybe like a 3.5 out of 5. I would give it.
That's exactly what I gave it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I felt like it was a good match, solid, entertaining match to start the show, but I felt like it never kicked into that next gear. It never really reached that level where I was really buying into that Solo was gonna win.
Yeah.
There were no near falls where I was really buying in, really getting excited about it, really marking out. And I thought it was a bit overbooked. But good way to showcase the biggest star in the company, Roman Reigns. The match had stakes. The match had consequences. It's important going forward in the future. And then We had The Rock come out again.
Yes.
We had the showdown between The Rock and Roman Reigns. This was giving big time, like alpha, masculine energy. It reminded me of in Predator, you know, when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers, their hands come together and they do that handshake.
Yes.
That's what it was. They had that stare off, lots of masculine alpha energy there. And it got excited for, is that going to be the match at WrestleMania to determine who the real tribal chief is in the family between The Rock and Roman Reigns? Or will they go in a different direction? I thought that was cool to see. Rock coronated him, put the
like a passing of the torch, pretty much. Yeah.
Yes. So I like that. Then we get the news: Royal Rumble going to be in Saudi Arabia
Next
in 2026.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of the Saudi shows, Phil?
I saw some of the early ones. Right before COVID, I think they had one or two. And they always looked like WrestleMania quality when you were over there. The production was always crazy. But to be honest, like, I never really cared about the outcomes of those matches because they always felt like throwaway pay-per-views to me. Now, I don't know if any of the ones that they've done since actually have had like giant stakes, but I just remember like having certain matches. You would think this is going to be the culmination of a plot line, but then it would be like, oh, there was a bullshit ending because it was in Saudi Arabia. The real match will be in a month at the next pay-per-view, And I'm like, well, so I didn't really care about them that much.
In a way, it kind of feels like a big house show. What was good about them, they would get like the old stars in and stuff like that.
Right.
People, but the Saudis didn't even know, like they would request certain wrestlers who were dead and stuff like that.
Oh, no.
To wrestle and stuff like this. The problem for me with the Saudi shows, though, is just the crowd isn't really into it. And it's just like a different culture, and it feels weird, especially with the women's matches and stuff.
They have to cover up and everything. It's bizarre.
Yeah, so I'm not really excited about the Royal Rumble being in Saudi. I'm not as upset as a lot of people are about the Saudi shows because of my politics or their, treatment of this or that. I don't really give a shit about that, to tell you the truth. But I just think it's bad for the product because the crowd's not really into it. I wrote down drone shots through the arena lobby into the stadium is really cool.
Yeah.
Super high-end production.
Very good production. Real quick, let's do 3 quick shout-outs because we're moving to the next part of the show. Yeah. So RP had done a $10 super chat. This is in regards to us talking about the intro to the show with the storytelling promo and all of that. He says, I don't really want Hugh Laurie to interrupt the show to remind me, hey, guys, I'm an actor. I'm not really a doctor while watching House. It takes away from the presentation of the show.
I agree. The thing is, AEW does a lot of this fourth wall breaking and shoot promos and references to inside baseball and backstage this and that. And the question is, how much of the audience even understands what's going on, what these references are? And if you are going to break the fourth wall and you are going to make these references, it should be very rare. It should not be something that happens every week, every show. It should not be the basis of the show. Otherwise, it starts to get up its own ass and become really pretentious and stupid and silly, I feel. So I get what you're saying, and I think fans are going to be really divided about that intro. But again, if this is just WWE does it in a smarter way where they're more sparing with that sort of stuff.
Right.
So I wouldn't expect to hear shoot and work and heel and face on a regular basis on the shows. That's just not really how WWE does business, and I trust them to be restrained with that.
That was the best place to do it. The reboot on Netflix was the time to do it and get it out of the way, address it, and as long as they don't keep doing it every week, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think it was the right time. So
again, people look at like the CM Punk pipe bomb promo and how great it was and that storyline. I remember it was so amazing at that time.
Oh yeah.
But it was so amazing at that time because nobody else was allowed to do it. And it never happened before, and it was like, wow, this is crazy that But once it becomes normal and routine,
It's boring.
once it's boring. Everybody gets tired of it, and then it just makes the whole thing feel stupid.
Right.
So you have to be very sparing with that sort of stuff.
Right.
We got. Go ahead. Yeah, shout him out. Shout him out.
Casanova, 22 months as a member on the Reacts channel. Thank you, Casanova. And then we got a very generous $50 super chat from Papa Slapnuts, who says, Triple H big leaguing Cody Rhodes by introducing him in the crowd instead of getting his own entrance was actually pretty keno.
It is Keno. Well, you got to remember, and I'm surprised that they didn't just job Cody out as soon as he came back and put him through humiliation rituals and make him Stardust, because that's what I would have done if I was Triple H. Because Cody, if you don't know this, but when Cody went to AEW, on his first appearance, he smashed Triple H's throne with a sledgehammer.
I saw that on social media.
And then he pulled out the golden shovel at certain points, and all of these references and all of these pointed things to Triple H and, shitting on WWE. But, they saw potential in Cody. They decided to push him and make him a star. And, with a lot of the audience, it's going over really well and people really like him. Just my criticism of Cody is that he just doesn't feel larger than life. It feels like he's trying to be larger than life, but he's not really. And I think that people were more in love with the idea of Cody being champion than Cody actually being champion. I feel like Cody's title reign has not been that memorable. It's not been that amazing. Again, I checked out because of Cody's title run and how boring I thought it was.
Interesting.
So Cody, to me, is just, he's not an icon. He's not The Rock. He's not Cena. As much as I hate Cena, Cena's still an icon. Cena's still bigger than life. He's not Austin. He's not even Roman Reigns, but he could grow into be something like that.
Keep in mind, for many, many years, people hated Roman Reigns, right? Like, they really tried to make him the face of WWE. And, remember the days when he was making awful jokes and stuff in the ring, like he freaking Looney Tunes references, right?
That wasn't his strength. His strength was not to be The Rock or John Cena. He couldn't be. He's not that level of orator. He's not that comedy, funny guy, quips and one-liners. And
right.
That's not him.
But they found him. They found his strength. After a while, took a while, but they found that perfect edge to give him, that right plot line. And now he's excelling. Now, I haven't seen any of this new Cody Rhodes. I'm excited to now get into the product and see, how he's doing as the champion. And, obviously I'll be giving my opinions too. I can't really speak to this right now because I haven't seen it yet. And there wasn't much of it on this Raw. There was no match or anything like that. So we'll have to give my opinion at a future date.
So they started showing celebrities and other wrestlers. They showed Gabriel Iglesias was there. They're promoting his Netflix. I hate Gabriel Iglesias. I think he's cringe as fuck. Big fat fuck need to die. Ashton Kutcher was there. Michael Che. They showed Rey Mysterio, which, was cool. Then I did notice they showed the War Raiders, and I wasn't aware of this. They got their name back. They were a great tag team NXT during their initial run as the War Raiders.
Yeah.
Then they brought them to the main roster, and Vince decided it was a great idea to make them pretend to be Vikings from the 12th century and fucking... They were just treated really, really badly, total comedy jobbers. And then, when you treat guys like that, you beat them to fucking dust and you lose all investment in them. They were treated as a joke, so I'm glad to see they got their name back. Hopefully they're presented in a better way. The tag team division has always historically been a weak spot for WWE. It was one of the only things that TNA probably did better than WWE back in the day, was their tag team division. Hopefully they can build that back up and get it going. John Cena comes out. And I felt like there was a lot of momentum to this show. I feel like this is going really, really well. We had that intro. We had the match with Roman. Now we have Cena coming out. Everybody was marking out for Cena, excited about Cena. What did you think about the Cena promo, Phil?
Well, my perspective on Cena is probably a lot different from the modern wrestling fan because I've been disconnected from wrestling for 5 years. When I was still watching wrestling, Cena had been out of WWE for a long time. And even when he came back, it was kind of like groan worthy, like, oh, this guy's back. There was this era where everyone was anti-Cena. They didn't even want to have him there. It seemed like whenever he came back, he was stealing the spotlight from someone else rather than kind of like trying to give them the rub. But now it seems like that's changed. The crowd was really into it. They were like, oh, this is the last run for Cena. It seems like his promo now is this is my last year as a pro wrestler. So I want to do everything I can in the last year. Can I get the title again, right? Can I become the record-breaking, what did he say? How many times was it? 17 times or something like that, champion?
It would be the 17 times. So he's tied 16 times with Ric Flair. Now, of course, Ric Flair has actually won more than 16 world titles. Depends which promotions you count as world titles and not. However, Ric Flair was only the champion in WWF or E twice. So really, Cena is the WWE most championship reigns guy already.
Right.
I really don't want to see him get the 17th title run.
Yeah.
I really, really hate Cena even still. I'll talk about this promo. To me, it was basically like a poor man's version of The Rock promo to start. It's like The Rock, but at a lesser level. Cena is never, able to tie The Rock's shoelaces. Let's be real.
Yeah.
He's hyping up the crowd, sucking Netflix's peanuts. He talks about how it's his last time in Los Angeles, which really they're not going to book LA at all in the next year.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me that it'll be his last time in LA. He started telling stories about Los Angeles, how he started off his career there as the prototype. He won his first championship at WrestleMania 21 there. The crowd's into it. Cena talks about how it's been 2,400 days or more. It was more than 2,400 days since his last win.
Right.
And that's true. That's true. He's been losing every time he's been there. And I haven't really been impressed with a lot of the matches that he's had. And in fact, it seems to me now that a win over Cena doesn't even mean anything. They had Solo Sikoa go over Cena. They've had so many guys go over Cena now that it almost, his matches were starting to feel kind of fucking cheap. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be at WrestleMania this year. Kind of a retread of the WrestleMania 34 story. Remember? And then he ended up having that cheap match with The Undertaker that satisfied nobody.
Yeah, terrible.
That was a dream match for people for years. That what if Cena and Undertaker had a match for the streak at WrestleMania? What if it was an I Quit match? People would fantasy book that. And what we got was a joke. Vince McMahon thought it was funny.
Right.
And that's what we got at WrestleMania 34. I don't like where this is going. Cena's talking about winning the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Fuck this noise. Fuck Cena. I don't want to see him win the Royal Rumble. I don't want to see him win the championship again. People forget, everybody today, it's this revisionist history about Cena. Oh, Cena's the best. Oh, Cena this and Cena that. And we miss Cena. And oh, we didn't know what we had. Well, we had it. And blah, blah,
I don't get it. When Cena was becoming prominent in the 2000s and he changed from the white rapper character to this Marine character, because that's really what it was. He started in the Marine, and so they made him this Marine hero character, right? He basically became the new Hulk Hogan. That's exactly what they were going for. They wanted someone who was like PG, telling kids to do the right thing, never give up. Here's my towel to buy, all the merch and all of that. I understand the game. I do. I get it. But I never really liked him as a wrestler, to be honest. The 5 moves of doom and all the bullshit. When he got into the plot line with CM Punk, he actually started to get a little bit better in the ring. I feel like they forced him to do that to make him more credible. But at this point, I just don't care about John Cena. I don't. I never did. I never will. So to see him come back here, it's my final year, I literally don't care. I never will. So I'm sure they're going to make a big to-do about this year. I'm just going to be like, can I skip these segments? I just don't care about this guy.
The way I look at it is that Cena presided over the slow demise and death of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
John Cena drove so many fans away. So many fans that, were from the Attitude Era, ruthless aggression era. And Cena's presentation when he was the rapper and early on, he was still somewhat of an edgy character. He was still somewhat interesting. When they did that 2008 was so bad. If you go back and watch 2008 WWE, and part of it was Benoit's death, part of it was, Eddie Guerrero's death before that, and the wrestlers dying of steroids. Part of it was Linda McMahon's Senate run. Part of it was the Mattel deal. But all of these forces came together to make them sanitize the product to such a degree that it was completely brain dead.
Yeah.
And it was just for children.
Right.
And back when I first got into wrestling, even during the ruthless aggression era, the product was still targeted at adults. And it was cool for adults. And so because of that, it was cool for teenagers and kids. But when you make the show completely corny, PG, lame bullshit for kids, they don't even really like it. And the adults certainly don't like it. They don't go along with it.
It's just like you said, make the product for adults because kids like things for adults. So it works both angles. It makes it popular. They totally went the wrong direction during that era, in my opinion.
And then this is the thing about Cena. People forget about how many wrestlers were sacrificed for Cena.
Yes.
The company was fixated on Cena for so long that they never built anybody. All of the wrestlers that debuted between about 2008 and 2013 were beat into powder by Cena. Nobody was ever allowed to outshine Cena. Nobody was ever allowed to be a bigger deal than Cena. There was a glass ceiling. Cena was the man, and nobody was allowed to challenge it. And there were so many guys who, if they were allowed to get that push and get that opportunity, could have become something and could have become a new generation. We kind of got a lost generation because of the Cena push, which then led to the dark days of the pandemic where there were no new stars that anybody had connected with.
Right.
And when you stop caring, when there's no longer characters that you have investment in, because all of the old wrestlers that you cared about retired or went part-time, and so they didn't invest in the new stars at all.
In my opinion, the biggest mistake WWE made during that entire era, they refused to turn Cena heel. If they had at some point turned him heel, now you can build up new faces to face Cena. And even if they don't beat him, at least you have some more credible faces. Instead, you left him as the poster boy face of the company for so long. There was no one else.
People begged and begged, pleaded for Cena to turn heel. And they dick teased everybody for, you remember the Rise Above Hate?
Yep.
Back in is he going to turn heel against The Rock? And they could have done something there. It looked like that was the story, because after Cena lost to The Rock, and he lost to Brock Lesnar, and it was his worst year. But meanwhile, in 2012, he was getting the main events over CM Punk, who was the champion.
Right.
Remember, John Cena versus Big Show was main eventing over stuff like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. John Cena versus John Laurinaitis was main eventing pay-per-views over CM Punk's 434-day title reign. This was the bullshit that we were dealing with. John Cena's burial of the Nexus.
Right.
And those guys never got a fucking chance to shine ever. Now, most of them, probably never would have been shit, but I really thought Wade Barrett had good potential.
Yeah.
I thought he had a good look. I thought he was good on the mic. And for that whole storyline to culminate in him never winning the WWE Championship, it could have had the first ever English-born WWE champion, never did it. That was so disappointing to me. And that was part of, I honestly checked out after that until the fucking pipe bomb. The brutal burial of guys like Damian Sandow, who they had him cash in the money in the bank and lost to a fucking one-armed John Cena. Burials of Christian Cage throughout the years. just so many guys got buried by Cena and shit on, and it was for what?
So for those who now are listening to this show for the first time and they're like, I just don't understand how people don't like John Cena. Hopefully now you get it. Like, we were there during the time frame when this product was seemingly ruined by this guy's presence and the inability of Vince and others in power to see what they were doing. Yes, there was merch being sold, but outside of that, the product was being ruined. And that's why with Cena coming back on Raw and cutting this promo, oh, it's my last year, whatever. I don't care. I really don't care. I want to hear about all the new blood, all the new talent. I don't care about him coming back.
What happened, and I said this to Phil while we were talking in the green room before the show. What's happened is these kids who grew up watching Cena and they were the, let's go Cena. Well, we were all, Cena sucks. Let's go Cena. Well, now they're the main audience. And so now they love Cena. They're nostalgic for Cena. But for adults who are watching back then, or teenagers like I was watching back then, we rejected Cena. We fucking hated Cena. We wanted something different. And that's why when Roman Reigns took over, even though he sucked, I was like, at least it's not John Cena. At least it's not John Cena.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that Cena never got the WrestleMania main event again after 29. I'm glad that he fucking, was put on the back burner after that. Didn't get world championships runs after, I think, 2015, 2016. But you know what? He was still an icon. He was still a larger-than-life character. He was better than a lot of choices that they could have done. And what we have seen is it could get worse than Cena, because during the pandemic days and part of the Roman era, it really was bad. And so I understand why people are nostalgic for Cena, but I never really will go to this level of, we got to suck off Cena and we got to love Cena. Like, I'm just never going to be there as a fan. So I don't know. I really hope he doesn't win the Royal Rumble. I would like to see John Cena. And I know fans, every time I see a Twitter post about this, fans are angry about it. But I would like to see John Cena face Logan Paul, and I would like to see Logan Paul retire him, and he do the job to Logan Paul. It would give Logan Paul so much heel heat. Sure. He would be hated forever as the guy who ended John Cena's career. That's what I would like to see. But I don't. Or I'd like to see Cena and CM Punk one more time, although we have seen that a lot. I don't want to see Cena and Orton. That might be what we end up getting.
Again?
But how many times will we do Cena and Orton?
Why not just bring back Edge or Batista for it? Let's just have them all in the ring at once. The million matches that they've had. Crazy.
Don't you know his name's no longer Edge? It's Cope, Phil.
Oh, God. No, I don't know that. I don't know
Yeah,
that.
I told you. No, it is. So Edge went to AEW, and he couldn't use the name Edge because WWE owns it. So he started going by his real name, Adam Copeland. Well, and by the way, I just want to say this. Edge shouldn't be wrestling. Edge had to retire like 13 years ago because he was at the risk of being fucking paralyzed.
Yeah, right.
Because of these neck surgeries he had. And they have him going out there jumping off cages. Edge actually fucked up his leg jumping off a steel cage. The man's in his 50s.
Oh, man.
And nobody will tell him no. Nobody will say, hey, Edge, like, you shouldn't be doing this shit. The guy's going to end up in a fucking wheelchair in horrible pain for the rest of his fucking life. And now he's going by the name of Cope.
Wow.
And it's just, this is insane delusional shit about Edge, man.
That's AEW, right? And I just found out I have AEW because I have Max. So maybe this is something that we'll tackle in the future. I haven't seen AEW at all. I've literally never watched AEW for 5 seconds. So that might be something interesting.
What about Cena and The Miz? It could be really good.
Oh, man.
It actually could be good to do that one again. Miz, I think, is really good on the mic, and when he gets opportunities to he can really deliver. Could be a good feud between Miz and Cena there, and it would allow other people to be freed up for other stuff, because Miz, I don't think is really doing a whole lot right now. It could be a good match, but I don't know if people will be happy with that for Cena's final WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I like the idea of Logan Paul. Speaking of which, they did a Logan Paul hype package. Now, say what you will about Logan Paul crypto scams, the forest that he went to with the dead people, and all of that stuff. I really love Logan Paul. I think Logan Paul is a great wrestler. He has incredible athleticism. He looks like a wrestler. He sounds like a wrestler. He's a good promo. He can get good heel heat. He takes this shit. You can tell he's taking it seriously. And I don't know. I'd like to see him get that Cena match.
Maybe, I've been talking about this, in the last year or so. Sometimes what you have to do is you have to separate the art from the artist. I don't like Logan Paul as a person from all the stuff that I've heard he's involved with, but maybe he's a good wrestler. I haven't seen him yet, but I'm willing to give him that chance to see his promos, to see him wrestle, and I'll give him credit if credit is due. So I think a lot of people sadly can't disassociate, and that's why a lot of people, hate on him being in WWE.
Well, and that's we'll get into the Hogan stuff later as well. Then we had Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. What did you think of this one, Phil?
Well, this one was weird for me because last time that I was watching, Dominic Mysterio was still just being introduced to everyone as the son of Rey Mysterio, and he was supposed to be like this face. He was getting beat up by Brock Lesnar, I remember, and all of that. I know about Judgment Day, but I haven't followed the plot of what's happened with Judgment Day. So now to see Judgment Day be like a whole different group of people are in there now, and Liv was the champion. I don't even remember. I didn't know she was the champion. I didn't remember her ever winning the title. So the whole thing was just shocking to me. Like, I'm just absorbing as much as I possibly can. But then the thing that seemed the staple was like Rhea Ripley seems like she's the same character as from like before, like when I was watching. It doesn't seem like anything's changed with her. So
this is the thing about this is that I wasn't really excited about this feud because I think it's kind of lost its luster. But before I get into that, I'll kind of explain to you what happened.
Okay.
So basically, Dominic, they were trying to present him as a babyface. It wasn't really going over well. But then what they had him do is they paired him with Rhea Ripley. And they made Rhea Ripley like some sort of like BDSM dominatrix that he called Mommy. And it was like the most disgusting, greasy, sniveling guy now where, this woman runs his show and, he turned on his father, Ray, and he went to the house on Christmas Day and assaulted Ray and like ruined Thanksgiving. They did a lot of good stuff with this. And Rhea and Dominic really developed a lot of chemistry, and they were able to do a lot with Judgment Day. And it was one of their best stories. And then they split them up. So they did a storyline where Liv Morgan stole Dominic from Rhea because Liv called Dom Daddy Dom, if you get where they're going with this. So now he's like allowed to be the man or whatever, and she's like submissive to him. She was making chicken tenders and stuff like this for him.
So are we sure Vince didn't write this plot line? Are we sure he wasn't involved?
Because this is like some weird like sex fetish shit that they're putting on the show. At least it's not another cuckold storyline. You remember Lashley and Rusev? How many times they would cuck Rusev? And you thought that was all like Vince's idea to have Lashley cuckold him?
Wow.
But then Rusev goes to AEW and he does a cuckold storyline there.
Yeah.
He did it again.
Right.
I swear to God, 3 different times they made this guy a cuckold. It's like, at a certain point, is it you that wants this or what's going on? This is one of their more risque or cutting edge. Notice like there was like a real homoerotic moment, like a lesbianic moment in this match at the finish.
Yeah.
Did you pick up on that, Phil?
A little bit. It seems like a lot of
she's
these...
like holding her and it looks like she's about to kiss her before she delivers the finisher.
Yeah. The weird thing about it was Like, I'd never seen Liv wrestle at that level because Liv wasn't getting a lot of attention 5-6 years ago. She was just like relatively new on the mainstream shows. But Rhea seems like she was the same, like the same moves, the same riptide, the same setups. So it was kind of like one half of the match I totally already knew because I'd seen her in NXT and everything, and then coming onto the main show. And the other half was like totally different. I don't know how credible a match like this is, honestly. I mean, can we be honest? Liv is like half the size of Rhea. And it's like, how could you say that she's going to even stand a chance against her if it was a fair match? You know what I mean? Like,
well, Phil, which did you find sexier? Are you more into Rhea or are you more into Liv, Phil?
Gee. Should I delve into that? No, I mean, to me, I don't even think that way when I watch these matches anymore. This is the Attitude Era with freaking Trish Stratus and everything back in the day, you know.
Rhea has a huge ass, and it's fucking tight. And it's a toned, sexy ass there on Rhea Ripley. But Liv's tits are, like, they're a bit lacking. Did you notice that? Liv seems to be, like... You know, she needs to put on a cup size or something
well, honestly, I mean, this is an honest thing to bring up. Back in the day, again, when wrestling was prominent in the 2000s, the Attitude Era, it's like they required that. Did they not? Like, that was a prerequisite to be a diva or one of the wrestlers, is you had to have big boobs and a big ass. It's just one or the other. It had to happen. You had exceptions like Stacy Keibler, but again, even then, it was the legs or whatever, right? But now...
Those legs, that ass.
Right. And of course, Jerry Lawler going crazy, puppies and everything. And now it's completely flipped. It's a different era, you know, it's a different generation.
We're supposed to take women wrestling seriously. Let's be real. They're eye candy. They're sex options. Phil's so uncomfortable. Phil, come on, Phil. What do you think of the tattoo on Rhea? Have you seen her without the tattoos from before?
Oh, I did. I seen her like when she was, you know, just in training and all of that versus all the over. Listen, I'm the kind of guy, I don't mind tattoos, but I think there's a level when it's a little gets too excessive, and it's getting to the point now where it's like you're just doing it to be a talking point at this point. It's kind of like Randy Orton when he started getting the tattoos, and all of a sudden he goes crazy. His whole body is tattoos again. It's not just about women. It's about just tattoos in general. I think you can get too crazy with it, you know, and I do feel like, you know, to the point where, she's going a little too far, and I don't really care for them. So. Yeah,
she was a cutie before all those tattoos, although she's still fit. What a woman, as Vince would say there. What would you, okay. And then we had the finish. Rhea won. They teased Rhea and Dominic reuniting, and then Rhea kicked him in the nuts.
Right.
Hopefully this storyline is over. I felt like it extended on way too long. I feel like Rhea without Dominic, as you said, she feels like she's reverted back that character she was before.
Yeah.
I feel like she really needed Dominic, and Dominic, at the time when they were together, she was getting all the credit, or I felt like most of the credit for that working. But now we see, I think, that it was Dominic who was the real MVP of getting the heat on that storyline.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's kind of just spinning her tires. They gave her the title. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to have her feud with Charlotte Flair again, because Charlotte's coming back soon, and she's probably going to lose to Charlotte. And then I really don't know what the fuck they're going to do with Rhea Ripley. Liv stole her boyfriend, stole her thunder. Rhea has the title, but the title doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
I think that Liv and Dominic in that Judgment Day storyline is far hotter and is going to be much bigger for the company going forward. Then we had a bizarre moment, right, Phil, where Rhea comes up the ramp.
Oh.
And then the Undertaker's gong hits.
Like, what?
And it's...
The badass Undertaker coming out. And by the way, they played his American Badass theme, which I was shocked that they used the Kid Rock American Badass theme when he came out. And I think everyone was shocked by this. They're like, so what is this? Is this like the Undertaker is passing the torch to Rhea? Is she going to be the female Undertaker or something? Like, what was the point of this?
I don't know. Like, he didn't say anything. He didn't really do anything. And it's not the version of The Undertaker that most people like or are nostalgic for. Like, I want to see him as the dead man. If you're going to have Undertaker appear, have the lights cut out, have him come in the ring, choke slam somebody, some heel running their mouth. I mean, that's what they usually used to do with him. This just felt, and even then, it's like, is this really necessary?
Yeah.
I feel like Undertaker, he's had his time. He's had his day. It's kind of cool to see Undertaker, but what did he really add to this show other than that he was on it?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like character confusion because, like, what is Rhea's character? At first, she kind of looked like she was a biker chick, right? But then they changed it. She's a dominatrix. She's got makeup that she looks goth now. But now Undertaker comes out. Oh, he's a biker. He's giving her the push or the rub. But it's like, but does that even match the character? I don't know. I'm confused. I hadn't seen Rhea for 5 years. I come back and I'm like, what's happened? I wouldn't have even known any of the stuff you just said at all by watching that match. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like there was a hit the reset button on her. And now it's just so confusion that he's associated with her. And it just seemed like a wasted opportunity. He could have done something better on the show.
What would you have give this match out of 5 stars, Phil?
It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. At least it had a definitive ending. There was a title change that adds a little bit of hype to it. I'd probably give it like a 2 3/4, 2.75 out of 5.
I'm honestly giving it 2.5 stars. I thought it was average, just a plain match. Didn't really get into it. I kind of believed that Rhea was going to win the whole time. I did like one thing I wrote down that I forgot to mention. I did like the statistics they showed when she came out that Rhea had only lost twice since 2022, and both of the matches were to Liv Morgan. I thought that was kind of cool. Okay. And after Undertaker, American Badass, Chad Gable was backstage. He cut like a very mediocre promo, in my opinion, talking to the Raw GM, Adam Pearce.
Right.
What do you remember when Adam Pearce was like the GM back in the day?
I
like
wasn't. That was after, when I was watching.
No.
Wasn't it?
That was back in like 2003. They made Adam Pearce the general manager of Raw for like, I think he was only GM for like 2 weeks. He was like some throwaway fucking jabroni authority figure. They've now brought him back. People really seem to like him as the authority figure. I think he's okay. So apparently there's going to be a match next week between Chad Gable and whoever.
A mystery luchador.
Yes, Pentagon, probably.
Well, they showed, Pentagon. Who is Pentagon? Where's he from?
Okay, so Pentagon I first saw in Lucha Underground, and I don't know if you ever watched Lucha Underground, Phil.
I saw one episode of it, a long time ago.
I loved Lucha Underground, and I really wish it had got on a bigger network, or if it had got picked up by Netflix or got picked up by some streaming service. I thought it was a great show, had a really different presentation, a very cinematic presentation. It was being executive produced by Mark Burnett, who's done like Survivor and The Apprentice, and it was on Robert Rodriguez's network El Rey, and there were some great matches that Phoenix was in, like the match he had with Mil Muertes, in the casket match they had was so good. Pentagon came in. He was just a badass wrestler, snapping people's arms. He had a great run in Lucha Underground. Then he had a run in TNA where he was in a feud. Him and his brother Phoenix were feuding with the Latin American Exchange. Do you remember LAX?
Oh, I do.
TNA?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So they did a new generation LAX versus Phoenix and Pentagon Lucha Brothers feud. It was a great feud that they had in TNA. Now, that was like late stage TNA. I think that was like 2017, 2018. So I really love these guys. I had a lot of hype for them, and they debuted in AEW, and it just never really went anywhere. Now, they had some matches in AEW that were good, but there was a lot of shit where there was no restraint. And it went way too far with moves. Like there was a match, I think, was it Pentagon and Orange Cassidy, where they just kept doing Canadian Destroyers over and over and over and over again. But essentially the Lucha Brothers, I feel, flopped in AEW. All the hype came out of them, and they wanted to leave. And one of the big things about AEW was how moral a promotion they were, how wonderful they were. They were
I heard about
the wrestlers
this. They wouldn't let him out of the
better.
contract. They've locked him in, right? So he had to stick around for like a whole extra year or something. And he couldn't leave. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. So they, they always talk about WWE was the prison. They would hold wrestlers against their will. Well, now AEW has become the prison.
Wow.
And Tony Khan is holding wrestlers against their will and not allowing them to leave the company and go other places. And, in a lot of ways, Tony Khan and AEW became every single thing they hated and criticized WWE about. That promotion back in 2021, 2022, I started to think, are they going to be a real competitor to WWE? Are they going to, when they had CM Punk come in, they had Daniel Bryan come in.
Right.
And it was, and they had like their own homegrown stars, but eventually they fell into a lot of the same traps TNA fell into, and they relied on bringing in WWE guys instead of building their own, and they've fallen off.
That's exactly what TNA did, and then they followed right in that same suit, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do people actually think Pentagon is going to be who's going to wrestle Gable? Because someone in chat just made a point. Andrade, maybe. Is Andrade a free agent now?
He is. God, like, can we just let Andrade die? Like, please. This guy, everywhere he goes, he's a locker room cancer. He's a distraction. He goes one company to the other company. I've never been that interested in him. There are a million spot monkey, fucking Hispanic luchadors that could do exactly the same shit he does. Tell me, when has fucking Andrade ever cut a promo worth of shit? Tell me what storyline he was in that you were interested in. But he's married to Charlotte Flair.
Right.
So we all have to endure fucking Andrade's garbage. Fuck that. Then we had Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre, Phil.
Yes.
Jey Uso comes out with Travis Scott.
That's something we didn't mention. The new theme song of Raw. I was like, oh, come on. This is what they selected. I'm from the era of, we got the guns, the drugs, and my generation. The hard rock shit. It's the theme of wrestling. It's always been like the theme of wrestling. And now there's this movement to turn wrestling into like everything has to be this hip hop music. Now, listen, I'm not here to crap on hip hop music or whatever, but even the vibe of the song they selected for Raw from Travis Scott, it's one of his songs, doesn't seem to fit pro wrestling for me. It's weird. It's a different vibe. It's like almost like a relaxing song. Like I don't want to hear that when people are about to beat the shit out of each other in a ring. It's very bizarre.
It doesn't get me hyped up like old Raw intros used to do. I'm not really a Travis Scott guy. I understand it's a new generation. They want to appeal to the youth. Travis Scott is a huge superstar. Him being on the show was a big get for WWE, big get for Netflix, huge for Jey Uso. But this is my thing. I don't buy into Jey Uso. First of all, I can't even really tell Jey and Jimmy Uso apart. I always thought that they were very mediocre and very mid. And the final nail in the coffin for me on the Usos was their WrestleMania match against each other at WrestleMania 40. This match was the drizzling fucking shits. Everybody fucking knows it. It's cemented to me that these guys will never be main event players. They're not serious players. I think the push that Jimmy and Jay get is completely nepotistic. Has to do with, and we all know this, has to do with that they're family with The Rock and Roman Reigns, and so the family takes care of each other. And this win for fucking Jey Uso is completely nepotistic. Drew McIntyre has put in the fucking work. Drew McIntyre, when he first left WWE, he was a jabron.
Yep.
He was
three-man band.
He was not even good enough for the mid-card. Couldn't cut a fucking promo to save his life. His physique was lacking. It was mediocre at best. He came back, huge jacked physique. I've met Drew McIntyre in person. He is probably the biggest guy I've ever fucking met. He is fucking He's huge, man. And I'm a big fucking guy, big fat guy. But he made me feel small to be in his fucking presence. I think he does have a larger than life presence. This new character they've given him, I really like. I like that, shoot promo that he cut a couple weeks ago on that wrestling podcast, where he was like, when I was out, not one person gave me a call. Wrestling fans are fickle and they forget you immediately, and there's always a new guy. And it felt really real, and it felt really raw, and it felt really strong. And this guy just always gets the fucking shaft.
So,
he always gets the shit end of the stick.
In line with that,
time.
I have a question for you, because you have been watching wrestling this whole time when I wasn't. So the COVID era was when Drew won the title, and he kind of carried it throughout that COVID era. Do you feel that Drew definitely got screwed being champion at that time? Because a lot of people say if he had just been champion any other time, he would have been known as like a great champion. But instead, it's an empty arena champion. So how can you get behind that?
And I feel like that was done on purpose. I feel like he was given that shit bag just to sabotage him. That's how I feel. I feel like they didn't want to, put the belt on their real favorites during that time, because then they would get exposed and felted during that era. So it was Drew McIntyre's cross to bear.
Wow.
And he always has to bear that cross. And where I just knew that they would never, ever give him what he, what I feel like he earned, was the Clash at the Castle match against Roman Reigns. He probably should have become the champion that night, and if not, why book that match? And the fact that he fucking lost that match, like, it eternally buried this motherfucker, and he's been grinding back from that ever since. And again, I started to get into his character over the last couple months again, and now on the Netflix debut of Raw, I'm glad he got featured, but again, he lost. He's a jobber to the stars, to the people that they actually want to push, and he's never going to be the main event big-time player, I don't think, and this is another sign of that.
This match made me scratch my head, because, again, now I've been out of it for 5 years. When I was watching back then, it was just the Usos were a tag team. They were one of the greats, definitely. They were there with New Day and everyone, going back and forth, having these real awesome tag team matches. I'm well aware of the Bloodline plotline and how they got more featured during that era, but I just don't understand how he's like a main event talent. I'm not saying that he's a bad wrestler or whatever, but he comes out to, first of all, his theme song is the old Usos theme song. Like, it's the same one they used to do day one-ish. I'm like, so you basically running with the same shit from before. Yeah, nothing's really changed. You get the same mentality. They're doing the dance, what they used to do together. Now he's just doing it by himself. And it's the same moves and the same stuff. And I'm trying to scratch my head. I'm like, so why is he a main eventer? Now, I missed it. Maybe there was a good reason, but I just couldn't really get into the match that much, because it was kind of like no title was on the line. Didn't seem like there were any stakes for the match whatsoever. And I didn't understand why Jay was a main eventer. So it was kind of a big question mark for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't like the finish of this match, because basically Drew kicked the shit out of him, dominated him, and then you have the cheap roll-up finish.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. Would have liked a more definitive finish. Would have liked to see Drew win clean. But we have in chat, House of Rebellion says, say what you want about being shafted, but Drew has been champion 3 times. He's held the big belt, which some people can say they've never done, and he's got plenty of TV time. So, Drew has got his opportunities, and maybe he's just never meant to be that iconic guy, because his promos, again, still are not at main event level. He's still not quite there, but I feel like he's on the verge of breaking through. But part of it is that he's Scottish, and I don't know how much, they want to push a guy who's Scottish. Who fucking knows? Match was kind of lame. I give it like 2 stars straight up. Like, low-level match, shitty finish, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say out of all the matches of the night, it definitely was the worst. And I was going to say it was about like a 2 1/4 for me, because I couldn't get into it. I didn't understand what the point was. It just seemed like almost like a throwaway match. Maybe if I was into Jay, I would have cared, but it didn't seem
Galactic
important.
Donuts says Drew is the best promo right now. What is he talking about? Yes, he is a really good promo right now. but is he at the level of promo where he is the face of the company? To be, to replace a Roman Reigns, to be a Cena, to be a Rock, to be an Austin, to be a Hulk Hogan. That's the standard that I'm judging him by. Because for what he's got, he's at that level to be champion a few times, but to be the face of the company, that's the standard by which I'm judging him, okay? So I just want to make that clear.
Let's do some quick shout outs and then we'll get to the next segment. We've got a recap of News MMA with a $2 super chat, and it said that he feels the crowds for UFC in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi also suck. It's not just WWE, just those crowds just don't really get so energetic, I guess.
No, it's terrible for boxing. All of my boxing matches are now over in Saudi Arabia, and it's all weird, and the crowd fucking sucks. But they are making the matches happen because they have the money, so I have to respect the sheik over there, so...
We got a Review Felt in North Korea with a $5 super chat. Says, let's get some subs today. Very nice. Thank you for the $5 super chat there. Review Felt in North Korea. 2 quick tips, and then we can continue on here.
Okay.
We got a $2 tip. No, I am not doing a level 1 podcast today. I already announced that I am not doing a podcast today because this is the premiere of our wrestling commentary show, but thank you for the $2. And then I received a $20 tip from Mars Inhabitant, who says, this is a great show, guys. Thank you so much, Mars Inhabitant. Appreciate that. Cool.
Okay.
All right. We're good.
Okay. We talked about Travis Scott came out smoking a blunt, which was a sign that they're going to have more creative freedom, that sort of stuff. Then we had a Gunther promo package. Gunther promo package. Are you familiar with Gunther at all, or as he was Walter in NXT?
I knew of him as Walter in NXT. At that time, he was much heavier, right? And
yes.
I still liked his work. Like, I thought his work was great, but he wasn't really doing good promos or anything back then. So this actually, for me, was my first introduction to the Gunther character and who he is now. And I actually liked it. I thought that it was pretty well done. I think that I was shocked because I thought he was going to have like a bad accent, not, like choppy English, but I thought it was pretty good. And I've heard that he's done great, in the last 5 years, had some really amazing matches. He's the champion now. So this will be interesting to start following, his modern character now.
I think he's the best performer they have.
Wow.
I really do. He's the absolute best wrestler in ring. I love his character, how he carries himself, how he conducts himself. His booking has been really, really good. The only thing I wish with Gunther is they kept that same Imperium theme from back during his old presentation. I really like that, and I don't like his new music as much. But, that's kind of nitpicking. He's really put in the work to really get that physique to where it needs to be, and they're really entrusting him. And I don't know what his program is going to be at WrestleMania. Some people have said it's going to be CM Punk. Some people have said it's going to be Seth Rollins. We're at an interesting point here on the road to Royal Rumble and road to WrestleMania where all of this stuff is going to start coming together. We had a WWE Mayhem mobile game ad. Are you going to be playing Mobile Mayhem, Phil?
No, I am not. One crappy mobile game is enough for WWE for me. So I'll
okay, Phil, let's just settle this once and for all. Phil, you are down from the rafters, right?
I was. I'm not anymore, but I was.
But Phil, you are down from the rafters.
I am, yes.
You are still down from the rafters. You are.
No, I sold the account. I really did.
But Phil, there's no. First of all, here's what I'll just say, Phil. Phil, just please confess. Don't make me do this. Just say you're down from the rafters.
I was, but I'm not. I really did sell the account. We'll have to do this every week. We'll do a segment every week.
Okay. But Phil, selling the account is against the terms of service from Scopely. So why isn't it banned?
That's a good question, but there are other accounts that also have been sold that are not banned. Like I said, how I learned that you could sell an account was that someone else who was in a high-profile faction had done exactly the same thing. This person had announced that they were retiring, right? They had made this big public thing. They even had a video on YouTube. Oh, I'm retiring from Champions. And then the account is still active and it's still being used. Everyone's like, what? How is it still being played with? Because they sold it. And basically, I think what it is with these whale accounts, they allow.
But I believe that anybody else could get away with it. other than you? Because surely the detractors would be reporting it and it would be a violation of TOS and they'd ban it.
Yeah. I don't know. I like I said, my hands are washed of it. I got rid of it. I don't know anything about it.
God. And then Phil, there's there's listings. So every place where these accounts are sold, there's no listing for Down from the Rafters, Phil.
Yeah, that's correct, because I did it behind the scenes.
Phil, come on, Phil. Phil, God damn it, Phil. We've come so close, and yet we're so far. We've come so close, and yet we're so far, Phil.
Listen.
No one cares.
Listen,
everybody that gives you money knows.
Listen, there's something interesting about this, okay? All right? When I was talking to Mike Clone about the possibility of doing a documentary, okay, he said, one of the most interesting things about you is this mythos about this stupid mobile game, right? And he says,
yeah,
it's just this mysterious thing. Everyone is always talking about his. It doesn't matter, but if we do this documentary, we have to have it. We have to talk about it. He wanted to do a big segment about it with revealing stuff and stuff like that. But the thing is, there's a mythos, right? And to keep the mythos going is better than to just be like, oh,
You know what? That's actually the best answer you could possibly have given, Phil, and I'm going to accept that answer because, the mystique of where is the money going, but yes. We know now, Phil, fuck. I don't know. It's like, listen, everybody knows, I know, the dent tractor. Oh, the fans know. Nobody really cares, I don't think, but
no one gives a shit. No one ever really did. That's the truth, is that no one ever did. It was always the bullshit of what's the one drama thing to keep bringing up, and that was it. It's the thing they're going to always hang on to.
It's just another thing to whip you through the streets about and fucking rag on you about forever. But I don't know. I think you should just say that it's you and that you still spend thousands of dollars on it. But that's just me. What else do we got here? Okay, The Rock was backstage. He was shaking hands. He was showing his tequila. And then it was interesting. They announced that The Rock is going to be on NXT this week. Did you catch that, Phil?
Very briefly. And then they moved on. So I didn't even think about it until again I didn't even take a note on that. But you're right. I caught that. Yeah.
And then what I noticed is they showed that tickets were going to be available. And so they're like, their tickets are still available. So it's going to sell out.
Now it will, right?
They're going to jack the ticket prices through the fucking roof for that because Rock's going to be there. But that's really cool. And that's a sign that Rock is probably going to be around pretty regularly during this road to WrestleMania season, right?
Yeah.
Which is exciting stuff.
That's right. Eric in chat just said because his daughter's in NXT right now, right? So that makes sense that maybe he'll have an involvement or something there, perhaps.
Then we learned there's going to be a women's intercontinental title match next week. What do you think of this idea, Phil, of having multiple? Because there's going to be not only a women's IC title for Raw, but a women's US title for SmackDown. What do you think? I'm
all for more titles if they would always treat the titles with respect and handle them well. The problem is with that U.S. title, infamously, they forget about it. Or it doesn't mean anything, and it gets brushed under the rug, and then there's a year or two and no one gives a shit about it. Sometimes they retire it, and then they just bring it back. Even the Intercontinental title has suffered from that from time to time, where there'll be crappy plot lines, no one cares. Then all of a sudden, they'll have someone like The Miz or someone try to bring it back. Oh, it means something again, right? So I'm all for more titles, but I don't trust WWE to make it worth something. But at the same time, Vince isn't in charge anymore, so maybe they'll do a better job. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe things will be different. One of the biggest problems with AEW is the sheer amount of titles that they have, to the point where the titles mean nothing. Not only do you have AEW titles, world title, tag title, continental title, then there's an international title. Then they have the ROH titles. They have Ring of Honor titles, even though Ring of Honor is on life support. Then they have titles from Japan showing up on their show. They have titles from Mexico showing up on their show. I'm not even, there's so many different titles from Japan everywhere. showing up on their show. It's like, okay, we're having a match for the ROH Pure Championship, a federation that hasn't really existed in any legitimate way in 10 fucking years. Doesn't mean anything anymore. But okay, we're supposed to pretend that this fucking matters. Now, for the women, the women's division has always had a problem where essentially the only woman who ever gets a storyline is the woman who's champion. And all the other women basically sit and fucking spin, waiting for their chance to be the champion or the challenger.
Right.
So, but the thing is adding this mid-card title really going to fix that? Because they added women's tag team titles, and they did fuck all with that.
Do they even still exist? Because last time I even heard of those was when it was Naomi and Sasha, and then they left and everything. So, are they?
So last I checked, and I don't even know if this is the case anymore, but I think Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are the women's tag team champions.
Okay.
Which are two women that they do want to push and they do want to showcase. And I don't know how much they've been showcased because I haven't been in touch with the week-to-week product as much in the last number of months. But it just feels like to me that this is like throwaway stuff. I will say, they showed Tiffany Stratton in the crowd, that she had cashed in the Money in the Bank and won the women's championship. And I'm excited for that because I think she has a pretty good character. At least she has some character. She has some gimmick to her. She's this rich, spoiled bitch character. I think she's really, really good. And I'm happy she's champion. But I don't know if these mid-card titles are the fix to the issues with the women. I think what would actually be the fix, more so than titles, is to actually write them stories. How about we write them stories first, and then we'll worry about belts later. But whatever, that's going on. Okay, Hulk Hogan comes out. Hulk Hogan comes out, Phil.
With Jimmy Hart.
Oh,
they got to be together as well.
Jimmy Hart. With Jimmy Hart. And, man, poor Hogan, bro.
Yeah.
They basically set this motherfucker up to fail when you think about it. Because let's say that this show was in Knoxville or Texas, or in a Republican state, or in a Corpus Christi, Texas, or whatever the fuck, right? He would probably get cheered, and people would go along with it. But they put him in the single most progressive state in the city rather in the United States, in LA, in front of all these liberal actors, Hispanic audience. Well, he's like showing up to LA in MAGA gear and stuff.
MAGA Towers. His shirt said mega powers instead of mega powers, MAGA powers.
And they just shit on him, dude. And he was trying everything to get a pop. He was shouting out Macho Man. He was throwing out this name, that name, trying to get them to cheer. And they wouldn't fucking do it. And worst part of it all was Hogan goes to do the fucking shirt rip, bro. He can barely rip the fucking shirt. He looks 100 fucking years old. Then as he's like leaving in shame as they boo him out of the fucking building, his shirt isn't fully ripped and it's around his ankles.
Yeah. So
he's like waddling away. It looks like he has his underpants around his fucking ankles. And this is the thing is, if this is a regular thing where Hogan is getting booed and everybody hates Hogan, Hogan is a big sponsor of the show now.
Yeah.
He signed a multi-year deal with Hulk Hogan to promote his Real American Beer and have him on shows. So what are they going to do? If he's going to get booed everywhere.
And the other thing is, it's not Attitude Era, so they're not even going to show people drinking the beer. It's not like Austin Era where he's chugging it every week. So I don't know how they're going to promote this product on this supposed PG broadcast.
And they're pointing out people are hypocrites because Undertaker had Donald Trump on with Kane.
Yeah.
And promoted Donald Trump's campaign and Make America Great Again and shilled for it. But they didn't boo him. But they booed Hogan. Now, Hogan did say the N-word, and you remember all that, where he didn't want Brooke having sex with an N-word?
Yep.
And it would be okay if it was a basketball player and you need to have a rich N. And Hogan's had such like a sordid history and a sordid past. But it's funny how it goes, because like Triple H and Shawn Michaels, like they did so much degenerate, fucked up shit back in the day, drugs.
Yeah.
And you know, I imagine that a lot of the conversations that the boys would have in the back, especially back then, they probably were all talking like that. There were probably racial slurs and derogatory stuff being brought up. But because Hogan got recorded on a phone call, everybody shits on him, and it was just a bad crowd to bring him out in front of in LA. And this was a real low point for the show, and a real low point for Hogan's career. And when you think about what Hogan's done for wrestling, all of the memories, all of the matches, all of the money, a 40-year career.
Right. But who remembers it? That's the sad fact. All you remember is what you heard recently. He's pro, MAGA, and remember when he said the N-word. No one remembers the classic stuff anymore. And it's, again, separating the art from the artist, right? He did so much for pro wrestling back in the day, and people just can't seem to do that with him. So you're right. It brought the whole show down. It was kind of embarrassing. I remember when he used to come out and the crowd would get pumped and hyped, and, will he have another match? Of course, he's never going to have another match, but, you even think about stuff like that. Now it's just like, why is he even here? At this point, just find another way to promote his beer, because this is not working, obviously.
Yeah, it was really sad to see him treated like that. I don't think he deserved to be treated like that, because, if we talk about like the race stuff, he's come back several times since then and been cheered. Yeah. People have given him good reactions and ovations since that happened. I think it was just that it was the LA crowd, and it's just tough. In the intro package at the very beginning, they were promoting Hogan and how he was a hero and all of this stuff, and it's just a shame. But I think part of it is too, the audience is just different for wrestling. It's the guys who grew up with Hogan, they're in their 40s now, their 50s now. Are they going out to these wrestling matches? And also, the audience that was there, let's be real, this isn't a common wrestling audience.
Right.
These are people who are paying $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 for tickets.
Right.
I don't know if this is representative of the actual broader wrestling audience. These are rich Hollywood liberals who wanted to virtue signal and get themselves over by shitting on a legend who, without him, there would be no WrestleMania. There would be no WWE. There would be no wrestling in the form that we have it today at all if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. But none of these people want to fucking admit that. And it comes to a point where it's like, wrestling is a dirty fucking carny business. And some of the people who made wrestling the best that it's ever been were dirty, filthy, flawed, carny fucks like Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon. And I don't know how you can have a WWE without Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
They are WrestleMania.
Here's the thing. You don't want history to repeat itself or continue to make the mistakes that those people have made. But at the same time, you don't just erase the things those people have done because today you don't agree with those mentalities. Back then, probably that was a common thing. Now, the locker room mentality, everyone talking shit, everyone going overboard with the kind of stuff that they said. But is it acceptable today? No. But does that mean that you cancel the person entirely for having that mentality when they grew up during that era? How many of us have, and I know this is going to make Hogan sound really old. How many of us have like grandmothers, grandfathers who talked that way? Does that mean we hate them? We will never speak with them ever again? Or do we just, all right, it's a bygone era, we're different, but that doesn't mean we cancel these people from existence because they had those kind of thoughts.
But this is the thing is, like, how soft and how sensitive are we going to get about stuff? Because when I was growing up, which wasn't even that long ago, we all said the F slur, and we all said shit's gay, this is that. But now that's not politically correct.
It was completely common back then. Yeah.
So it's a question of how far are we going to go with this stuff. Now, I know Hogan has said some pretty crazy shit. Hogan has also been a big-time locker room cancer, and there's a lot of stories of him holding people down or sabotaging people, stuff like this. But at the end of the day, it is Hulk Hogan. And there is no WWE without Hulk Hogan. So, and that's the thing is the question is how we're going to grapple with Vince McMahon's legacy too. Because are they going to erase him from the tape libraries?
Right. Is he the next Benoit at this point? I mean, geez.
Yeah. Are we going to do that with Hogan as well? Like where does it stop? Right. And so I believe that because of those guys' massive contributions, they still do deserve to be celebrated. And I feel like in a different arena that isn't LA with $10,000 tickets, he would have been celebrated. But I know that's a controversial opinion. I know a lot of people are upset about the election right now as well. And it didn't help matters that Hogan showed up in LA in MAGA gear.
Right.
So he kind of...
It was all over social media. It was all over...
In a way.
Yeah. It was all over the internet.
Okay. Finally, Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. What were your thoughts, Phil?
Well, first of all, I had watched a brief video that you had sent me to help build up the plot of this match because I had no idea what the feud was between these two guys. You know, back in the day when I was actively watching pro wrestling and doing this show, SMARK Guys, a decade ago, you know, CM Punk was very prominent. This was during the pipe bomb era. So to see him now back in WWE is kind of shocking, you know, especially after all the things he's said and done over the last decade that was anti-WWE and the fact that they welcomed him back like this. And this plot that Seth stayed behind and kind of held the company up and was the company man while CM Punk left. And, you know, and everyone has a different opinion too, right? Like some people actually don't like CM Punk and say he really did run with his tail between his legs. He took his ball, he went home, he ran, then he went MMA, he failed at MMA miserably, right? He sucked at that. Then he went to AEW, and he was a cancer in the AEW line. Everywhere he goes, this guy's failing, and now he's back in WWE, so a lot of people don't like him, while others still to this day chant CM Punk every moment because they love this guy so much. He really was like the hero of the people back in the day. So I like the idea of the match. I think that the match was good. I think maybe it could have been a little better if they gave him a little more time. But I haven't seen CM Punk wrestle in a very long time. I think he still got it, albeit he moves a little bit slower now. He's a little older, but I think he still got the talent. Overall, I really liked it. Don't know about the ending because the way that the match went, it was good back and forth. But then for a while there, Rollins was really beating the crap out of Punk. And then the ending was just so kind of abrupt the way that they did it, where he was doing the superplex, was the Falcon Arrow, they call it, off the top turnbuckle. He does hit the first part of it, but then Punk reverses it into a GTS and then another GTS and then just wins. And it's kind of like, but you just got your ass beat for so long.
I know.
How did you manage to do that? You know, like they didn't. It
just kind of feels a little almost like that Super Cena-esque booking where just out of nowhere he overcomes the odds and wins, right?
Right.
I don't know. It was back and forth, right? Like you had Seth hit Punk's finisher on Punk.
Yes.
Then you had Punk hit Seth's finisher
stomp.
on the stomp, which for a while was banned.
Right.
And
I was confused
it wasn't allowed
because it was the curb stomp, and they said, "Oh, you can't do that anymore." But now he's allowed to do it, but it's not the curb stomp; it's just the stomp. It's the same move. So what? I don't get it.
Then we had Seth hit the pedigree on the announce table. Then he hit another pedigree on Punk. Punk kicked out.
So I mean, he beat the shit out of him, you know, like it's like
he hit the buckle bomb, then he hit another stomp, and Punk still fucking kicked out. By the way, that buckle bomb move, I don't think should be done. It's a very dangerous move. I remember when Seth Rollins basically ended Sting's career with the buckle bomb in 2015.
Yeah.
Yep. And that match, I think the finish, I don't know if this is true or not, but I had heard that Sting was actually meant to go over in that match.
Wow.
And because Seth fucked him up so badly, that Seth ended up having to win that match. Maybe he was booked to win initially, but that was a horrible fucking botch on that buckle bomb. I don't think it's necessary. And I didn't like to see CM Punk too is not, a spring chicken anymore. And for him to be taking that buckle bomb, I think is a bit much of a risk, especially since he's been injured so many times recently. But then Punk hits 2 GTSs in that sequence. I would never have known this, but the WWE fans the wrestling fans of today, they're all about their poetry and their callbacks. It was actually a callback to the finish of CM Punk and Jon Moxley in AEW. And their Shield brothers, it was exactly the same sequence where Punk hit that GTS on Moxley, and then he kind of collapsed into him and hit the GTS again. That's why it was like that, but I thought it was kind of a weird finish, but that's why they did that callback, and Punk's all about that. I thought it was a really good match. I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. I think that, it didn't really hit that next level of being a 5-star match or a 4.5-star match. Part of it is both of these guys have lost a step. I remember Seth Rollins back in 2015 was probably the best wrestler in the world in terms of his work rate. He was so athletic. He was so fast. He was so talented. And about 10 years on, he really has lost a step because he relied on that athleticism so much in ring.
Right.
Punk was never much of an athlete, so his style has aged better. And so when you look at Punk, he's still pretty much the same Punk in ring that he was 10 years ago.
Very close.
That being said, I really don't like Seth Rollins. I feel like Seth Rollins is like a glorified spot monkey. I feel like his promos suck dick. His character sucks dick. I feel like his character peaked in 2015 when he was in The Authority. I feel like those were the best promos that he ever cut. I find his character really, really cringy. I find all of the stuff he did with Becky Lynch and his wife and the man and these weird fucking, I don't know how to say it, queer outfits that he would wear, so flamboyant. I just didn't enjoy that.
My take, he really wanted to be the modern HBK, right? He wanted everything about it. He's the modern HBK. His ring style, his flamboyant outfits, everything about him. He hasn't reached that level. He's good. I respect the heck out of the guy, but he never really became the modern HBK. But he is the guy that the company leans on a lot.
And that's where, the whole complaint about, I was the company man and you left. Seth, you don't have the ability to leave. If you were good enough at anything else or popular enough to go elsewhere, make movies or be in the UFC or be the top guy in another promotion, you would do it. But you're not. You're Seth Rollins. You're not an icon. You're not a legend. You've never reached the levels that Punk has reached. You never will reach the levels that Punk has reached. And that's why you're stuck in WWE and you'll never, ever be anything else. Now, with CM Punk, I also am really down on CM Punk these days too, because it's ruined. It's ruined because CM Punk, when he got over and he was huge, it was because he was against the company. He was against the status quo.
Right.
He was a rebel. He was, badass. He was fighting against the man. And now he is the man.
Right.
Now he is a corporate shill, sanitized, broken man who's there for a paycheck, who will do as he's told. You just don't believe in him anymore.
That's exactly the first thing he said when he came back to WWE was, I'm here for the paycheck. Like, that was his first promo. And it's like, so how do you back the guy who for a decade was supposed to be the rebel when he comes back and outright that's the first plot line they gave him? It's kind of hard swallow.
And then he's not even a heel doing that.
Right.
Because there's a way to do that, like when Mick Foley was like Mankind, like the corporate kiss ass of Vince McMahon and stuff like that, or when Austin turned heel, even though that kind of was bad for the business for Austin to turn heel, he was that like kiss ass, kissing Vince's ass and shit like this. Punk's not even really embraced that heel aspect. He's still kind of like a baby face. So it's hard to get as excited about CM Punk as I used to be. And then also CM Punk has gotten really political. And, you know, obviously my politics are diametrically opposed to his politics. I try and overlook that. But he really gets cringy about his politics, man. And it's the same thing. I really like Jim Cornette. But his podcast, it gets going about politics and Donald Trump and this and that. And, you know, Republicans buy sneakers too. So you can't just be so upfront in an entertainment product like this about politics and expect there not to be some backlash. So, you know, the match was good. You know, I give it 4 stars out of 5. We'll see where these guys go from here. But, you know, in 2025, CM Punk and Seth Rollins, I feel like they're both past their prime.
Yeah.
You know,
I would say I liked the first match and this match equally, but for different reasons. Like the first match felt like the perfect Raw match with some good in-ring work, a plot line that ended and was a really good plot line that had been going on for a while. It gave it closure. You got the interference from everyone, so other people are getting involved. You get introduced to those people. This match was the flip side of that. It was just these two guys, mano a mano, no interference, no craziness. It's just them going at it. They've got good ring work. They've got good chemistry. I don't think I got as much out of it as I would have if I knew all this background stuff. Like you're just talking right now. I don't know anything about Punk's politics. I don't know anything about any of this. So maybe I would have enjoyed the match a lot more if I had known a lot of this stuff. I was going to say I probably was going to give it 3 3/4 like I did the first match, because I'd say that for me they resonated about equally. But the thing was there's really no payoff. Like, it didn't really matter who won this match. You know what I mean? There was no title change. This isn't going to change the course, I think, for either of them, that they got the win. So it was a good match, but I just wish that maybe there were more stakes involved, and that's why I don't think I would have liked it as much as I.
Homelander in chat says Drew versus CM Punk was better, and I agree. Drew versus CM Punk was a really, really good storyline, and that's where Drew, to me, really was elevated as well. But Phil didn't get to see any of that, which is kind of a shame. But that Hell in a Cell match that CM Punk and Drew McIntyre had was a really, really, really good match. And this was a decent match as well, but it's not like anything amazing, like crazy that we've never seen before. It was a good enough main event match. And we'll see where these guys go from here. Phil, who were your 3 favorite performers on the show? Who would you say are your 3 stars of the show?
It's a tough question because there just wasn't a lot of wrestlers. 4 matches, right? So with only 4 matches, it's hard to call. I would say I really liked Roman Reigns here because I got to see him as that tribal. Well, he's not really the tribal chief anymore, I guess. Now he's the OTC, but to see him in that new persona, I hadn't seen this before. So to see him actually, become that character that everyone likes, I really enjoyed that. So I want to give Roman props for that. I would probably say, honestly, Rollins and Punk, only because these are guys that I haven't seen for a long time, and they performed well, and they're good at their promos. Like, everything was in line. They didn't botch horribly or anything like that. In-ring work, that's probably the 3 best of the week for me.
Yeah, I had CM Punk as the first star, best match of the night, and I think he was the best performer in the best match of the night, so I gave him first star. I had Roman Reigns as the second star of the show, second best performance of the night, second best match. Then I had Paul Heyman as the third star.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, he's great. He's absolutely great.
I thought he really made that match as well. And so, Jabroni of the week, I think it has to be Hogan. I think Hogan's the quab of the week. Cack, what a fucking bitch Hogan was. Just really embarrassing for Hogan. Booed out of the fucking building, embarrassed. T-shirt around his fucking ankles, trying to shill a beer. It was tough.
Well, honorable mention goes to Undertaker because the appearance was so bizarre it made no sense. it was just so weird.
Yeah. Okay. Out of final thoughts on the show, and let's give it a ranking out of 10, Phil.
Sure.
You want to go? Yeah.
So overall, first time I'm watching pro wrestling in about 5 years. Very impressed with the production values. Again, I thought this could have been a pay-per-view with what they did with it. I'm curious if they're going to hold this level of production every week because now it's on Netflix, or if this was just a one-off big, launch celebration. I liked that there were 4 matches that were given time. None of them were rushed or botched, and there was a title change. That's always a nice thing. I like that there was some promo stuff, but it wasn't overbearing. They didn't go too much into comedy this week, which was good. Overall, if you were presenting this to a brand new audience, I think this is an impressive work. Like, this was an impressive body of work that they showed, and it will get people to watch next week. But the problem is, first impressions are everything, but what if they can't live up to this next week? What if next week the production value dips? Now you've got lesser matches, or the matches have crappy ending. The people might immediately, this isn't what I saw last week, so I don't know if I want to stick around. So for me, I really liked the show. So we're doing out of 10.
10. Yeah, let's do it at 10.
I'd probably give it, let's give it a 7.5 out of 10. I would give it.
Okay.
As a first show.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
And I'm going to, and I guess I'm grading it on the scale of what modern wrestling is.
Okay.
If I was to compare it, to some of the shows from the past that have happened, obviously I think it would fall short of that. But in terms of what you could reasonably expect from the product today, what they have to work with, this is probably about as good and as stacked as an episode of Monday Night Raw could be. It lived up to all of my expectations and exceeded all of my expectations for what the show was. I think the presentation was really incredible. I think the way that they laid out the show and presented the stars to a new audience was really good. I liked the appearances from all of the legends, the nostalgia from all of that. The matches delivered. It's not a perfect show, by any means, but modern wrestling, it's hard for me to see them topping this. The problem is as you said, where do they go from here?
Right.
You're not going to have The Undertaker every week. You're not going to have The Rock every week and Hulk Hogan every week. And you're not going to have these big consequential matches like the tribal showdown. You're not going to have a CM Punk versus Seth Rollins in the main event every week. You're not going to have all of, it be so loaded with top-level talent. You're going to have the mid-card guys. You're going to have the job guys. And so it's going to be tough, when you come back next week and you're bringing in these job-level talents and stuff like this. And I really do also. 3 hours was good for this show because they had a lot.
Right.
3 hours every week, I don't like it. I feel like wrestling is best as a 2-hour presentation.
Yes.
Even a 1 hour presentation. When Lucha Underground was an hour, or even when TNA was an hour back in the day, it always left you wanting more. You would want to see more. 2 hours, you could still be left wanting more. But at 3 hours long, you've had enough.
Right.
And then it's then you're going to have another show a couple days later, SmackDown, NXT, pay-per-views, and it's just a lot.
It's very exhausting to stay in line with all of that stuff, because the thing is, then you might miss a show, and the next show, what the hell just happened? Now everything's different. It is something that requires you to try to at least follow the generalities of all the plot lines. And maybe I'll say this. Maybe I would have actually liked this Raw even better if I had understood the plots. I was going into it cold, not really knowing that these were culminations of plot lines. And maybe I will enjoy the product more moving forward, understanding the plots. But 3 hours, even back in the day when they first made it 3 hours, it's too exhausting. There's too much that they try to wedge in. And then the weird part about that is, even though it's 3 hours, they always seem to not have enough time to do the important stuff. Some stuff gets rushed and other stuff gets too much time. They don't know how to balance 3 hours well. The 2-hour show was that sweet spot back in the day that I liked for Monday Night Raw. And I'm curious how they're going to fill this without making it feel too long moving forward.
Okay. So that's going to be it, I think, for our first edition of SMARK, guys. we're getting, the chemistry going, getting the flow going, getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I think, the shows will improve, bear with us as we get into the groove of things. But I had a really good time. I hope, Phil, you had a good time as well.
Absolutely.
And,
this was great. It's refreshing. I haven't talked about pro wrestling in so long. It was something that was a big part of my content over a decade ago. And it's cool now that these things are becoming more available. Like just having the Netflix, now I can watch Raw on demand whenever. It's easier than back in the day when you had to like DVR it and try to watch it and mess around with that. And, if it's well received, it seems like the audience live today really had a good time with it. Thanks to everyone who supported this initial episode. Thanks for that. We might consider expanding depending, right now we did Raw, but like I said, I might have access to AEW or, I think our goal right now is Raw and at least the pay-per-views like Royal Rumble coming up is going to be the big thing.
We're going to have to do Royal Rumble, right? And that. I think AEW might be really good because we can really kind of tear into it and shit on it. Although Raw is I find that these are more entertaining when the people are shitting on it pretty ruthlessly. People like to have negativity and complain.
Yeah, it's true.
This was a pretty positive review of Raw. I'm excited about it, and so I'm being positive. But I feel like if we do AEW, people might be into seeing us tear it apart and shitting on the booking. And Phil's never seen it, but again, we're going to need the support for that. And this is a pretty niche show. It doesn't really appeal to everybody. Wrestling is a niche product, as we explained from the outset. And so because of that, who knows how much of this will do. But if the support is there, if the monetary support is there, then, who knows? We'll do all of it. But it's a big time commitment, especially for Phil. Streams 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, it seems.
Right.
The Iron Horse, they're the workhorse of streaming. Dark Side Phil, it's tough to make time. And we went long on this too. What did we do? 2.5 hours?
Yeah, but this is the first episode. I felt it was go long. I cleared my schedule to do it. Makes sense. I think as we get more into the gist of it, into it, moving through and being able to hit the topics faster, and we don't have the big intro and everything, it's going to be a smoother show, the more that we do it. It's going to, become more streamlined. So.
Well, Lady Charisma had a good point. I think it would be better for him to go in cold and not with a preconceived notion that it's bad. It's true. We shouldn't go into it expecting it to be bad. We should have an open mind. Mind you, I haven't really watched AEW consistently in a long time now, 6-7 months at least. And I hadn't even watched the last couple pay-per-views from them. So maybe things have gotten better, but it seems to me it's pretty ice cold. Anyway, I guess that's it for SMARK, guys. What are you doing gaming now, Bill, or what are you doing?
I'm gonna swap over to my setup and give it a few minutes here, guys, and I'll swap over to DSP Gaming. I'll probably jump into some Indiana Jones or something. Didn't know how long it was gonna go
and
today.
I'm gonna be on Kino Casino tonight. I think we're having Steve Cambion on, although apparently Ralph has died. I've received word from Andy that Ethan Ralph may have passed away.
What?
And so that may have to supersede.
What on earth? That's for serious. I apologize. I laughed because
Cambion.
I didn't realize if that was serious. I thought it was a joke.
I don't know. No, I actually don't know. I think he might really be dead this time.
Oh my God.
So we'll see. Probably not though. He's probably just passed out somewhere in the gutter, pissed his pants. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Hold on. One last.
Wait.
Dank Sneed Pimp just gifted 50 subs on Kick. 50 subs at the end.
Hey, maybe we will do an AEW show after all.
Wow.
Maybe we'll have to set a goal for that next week. If we get a certain amount of support, we'll have to talk it over on the business end of things.
Sure.
And see what makes sense and is viable for the schedule. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
What the fuck? Yo, where did he go?